thing is like the legalisms of it, of like the shittiest, wormiest, like Alan Dershowitz of a lawyer trying to, well, technically, like it doesn't matter what's true, it matters what you can prove. The Templars have gradually become some weird play frat. It's a guy that has a pussy and a dick and can't stop. He's a bit of a pan, if you know what I'm saying.
At distance.
Right, and so while he drinks out of a river that they spike with wine, so he falls asleep. So they tie his dick and balls down to the ground like Gulliver's Travels, but of his dick and balls. And so when he wakes up, he jumps up to get ready for action. And he jumps up so fast he rips his shit on his dick off. Now he just has a pussy. Tracy Twyman has a whole research on that whole thing of where Mickey Mouse came from, and he's in a cartoon pimping out his sister.
I won't dance. It's the same thing to you.
Oh, what's your forecast for world events, Peter's eye hand? And he'll be like, hello from Colorado. China's about to collapse. Well, Russia has a lot of potash, and he's less correct than a climate scientist. This piece of shit. He's like a Stratford motherfucker. He's like a soothsayer to power. The Templars, you know, that weird, like I said, look up the 20 videos about it because the drawings are interesting. It's like a beard and breasts and a slit, not a vagina, a slit. So I'm like, is this guy dressing up like mommy? Because let's face it, Kai Bell's a bit of an overbearing mother, isn't she? You're being run by the serpent race, right? A snake sheds its skin, don't it? Oh, that looks like Diddy with Bieber before Flavor Camp.
It's definitely Diddy and Diddy.
Dude, he goes, yeah, we call it Flavor Camp. And like, there's something so creepy when you look into this shit and you're like, what are these people into, dude? What they're into is a lot of creepy shit you can find on the internet now. Like real sissy hypno.
It's all occultic, esoteric, deep dark shit.
Yeah, there's like, we have nothing going on here in America that isn't like absolutely dripping with it from every corner.
Zeus turns into an eagle and he goes and picks up this prepubescent boy.
That's how you do it. I want to have just Neil on because I like your channel, Gnostic Informant. And wait, so Neil, when you came on the first time, you started talking about it, but you grew up some kind of Christian, right? Like a evangelical of some kind?
I grew up Catholic, but then I started joining other churches that were not Catholic. That's usually how it works. When you leave Christianity, you always come back to something other than the one you grew up in because you're like, oh, that wasn't the true one. You know.
So wait, hold on. So now, what are you now? Undetermined or determined?
Now I'm not an atheist.
Yeah, right.
I still believe in something, but I'm not a Christian anymore. Yeah,
well, I would say, I always say Christians, like, you know, it's called the way. So you're Christian if you act like a Christian, and if you don't, then you're not. Like it ain't like it's not like I don't know, saying I'm a drummer or something, or you know, like it's a behavior.
Sure.
Like to me, like
a way of life. That's what the Latin word religio actually means. It just means way of life.
Is that right? I didn't. Yeah, I thought it meant. Okay, so that's just the actual definition. Am I wrong that I thought it refers to like the difference between that and a cult, like the Roman state? It was like a state thing, kind of like saluting the flag.
Cultus. It means like you're part of a initiate. You're initiate in some sort of.
Well, cult's the smaller one, but religio's the one where the state and the gods and whatever are all working together, and you're all.
Religio just means like way of life.
Oh, okay.
And
so that's got a lot of room
is like the actual cult, the group that you're a part of.
Yeah. Is it short for cultivate, or am I wrong about that?
Yeah, cultivate. Yeah.
Yeah.
Culture, the word culture, all that. It's all related.
Just grow a little garden. I'm just growing a mind control blowjob garden called Nexium. And
spiritual cultivation.
Do you want the tools to succeed in my corporate executive learning?
Right. That's what it is. That's what the church is. The first corporation ever.
Is it?
I mean, every church you go to, if I'm in church in Athens, I go to a church in Alexandria, I go to a church in Syria, they're all designed the same. They have the same paintings on the wall, the same mosaics. It's a corporation. And they have to have.
Is that not the Templars? Is the Templars because they invented the bank, right? The Templars are the first banking. It's not the Jews,
in that region for sure. Yeah.
Well, the thing of like from what I understand. According to the people that confess, not the tortured ones, which was there's a lot that just confesses to things because they're like they didn't want to have to do gay shit to be in the club. It was probably sucked.
Yeah.
Like, because they were gay and they didn't want to have to do that. And the Templars had gradually become some weird, like, butt play frat.
You will be murdered one way or another for betraying them. So I know that stuff like that does happen. I don't know to what extent the broader theories are true, but I know that Hammer Purgstall, when he wrote about the Templars, that Orientalist, he said that he thought that that's exactly what they were doing too, and that's how they were controlling their members. The artifacts that he discovered, he didn't belabor this point because child abuse was not really a big deal back then. Nobody really talked about the rights of children, so that the fact that children were being harmed potentially in rituals was not like the big headline for him. But he was just writing about sodomy rites and then also showing the pictures that seem to depict that. And they involve creatures that, according to the pictures, are either like little elf men or they are children. And it could be either, really. But we know that the Templars did, especially like I think in the later years, induct very young members. So someone as young as 10, I know, in England was inducted, and they would have been also invited to spit on the cross and, you know, kiss another guy's butt and all this stuff, which I don't think that it specifies in the document you have that there's actual like
no. There's no reference to like any like sodomy or analingus or anything like that. Besides just Mersdorf saying it existed in the past, and it's sort of similar to like the rubbing and kissing the idol.
Yeah, but another document that came out of the Vatican does seem to have confirmed that much. So that I don't feel like, you know, maybe they didn't bother to belabor that point in this document, but I think we know that did happen. And so, but we don't know like if it went as far as some of the other things that other Gnostic sects, for instance, were, you know, I guess Christian Gnostic sects in later years were accused of, but almost all of them, we mentioned the Waldensians, and there were several of these other groups that were accused of the same set of rituals, very similar, having to do with an idol, sometimes with the head of a cat, or it's like a man, it turns into a man, and then it turns into a cat, and then you're doing these rituals that involve group sex, sodomy, and then usually a child is killed, blood is drained. A lot of times, this is what they said about Waldensians, and these are accusers of them, not the Waldensians themselves, but this is what they were accused of: is burning the victim, the baby victim, so that it would turn into ashes, and then they would mix the ashes with blood and make a paste and anoint the idol with it. The same exact things that, you know, then European witches would be accused of later. So we don't know that the Templars really did that kind of hardcore stuff, but there was definitely homoerotic overtones to this induction rite. And then their statutes,
their symbol is homoerotic.
And then there's just the proclamation that was supposedly made. This is again according to the Chinon parchment from the Vatican, released by the Vatican, from the confessions they made to the Pope when they were put on their second trial by the Church itself, not just the King of France. That they said it's bad to have sex with women, it's bad to lust after women, and it's so much better that if you have to do that kind of stuff, you should do it with a man.
Well, it was you can't refuse the advancements of a brother, right?
Yeah. It was, again, like, not that it's good, but, you know, you got to let it out somehow, and so do it this way instead.
And then there's, I don't know if it's been remarked on, like their symbol is the two men on the same horse.
Yes, it's been remarked on. It's always treated like, oh, what's wrong with you? You know, you have a dirty mind, and well, come on, now we know the truth.
Because there's a bunch of guys going underground, and no women, no girls allowed, and all. You know, it all goes to the same place to a weird ditty party.
They were digging up ancient Christianities, and I say Christianities plural because when you start looking at the church fathers when they're writing about heresies, different Christian heresies, they're writing about all these different groups that are they're all calling themselves Christians. They're not like, oh, I'm a Valentinian or I'm a Gnostic. They're all saying I'm Christian.
No,
But
yeah.
they get labeled as different sects, denominations of Christianity.
Right.
But a lot of these groups were doing weird sex shit and weird drug shit, all types of stuff.
It was like the 60s at one point.
Yeah, it was like the first century was like 60s version of Christianity. And so the people you mentioned, the Templars, they were digging up these sources about the Sethians, the Ophites, the Nassenes, the Borborites, the Elkasites. There's all these different groups. They're all doing different shit, and they're trying to like reestablish those because they're thinking, well, this must be the real Christianity. This is
right.
real magic.
What's the last ones you said? The what is it, like a heartburn?
Elkasites?
Yeah.
The Elkasites were like a little bit more on the Jewish side. They were trying to follow like Jewish law and stuff, sort of like the Ebionites. But on the other side of the pendulum, you have the Ophites, Nassenes, Borborites, and these people get accused of like literally doing like orgies.
Right.
They have a gospel where Mary Magdalene has sex with Jesus. There's a guy named Marcus.
Yeah, right.
A dude named Marcus the Magus. That's what they call him. And they said that this guy was giving Eucharist to women, only women, for some reason.
And the Eucharist is his
Eucharist
dick.
to women with purple drugs that he said the word he uses, he says sleight of hand. He was putting like drugs behind his back, and he'd give the girl a cup, and then he would put a little bit of drugs in it and give it to her.
What was the drug?
All we know is it was purple. We have no idea what the drug was. But Saint Hippolytus is the guy who writes this down in like around 200 AD. And he says that Marcus put a purplish drug in the Eucharist, and it would cause the women to have to have like visions of the Holy Spirit. So it's a psychedelic. They're tripping balls.
Yeah, right.
And Hippolytus also says that this guy Marcus was leading such a big, it wasn't just some random Joe Schmo. He was such a high-level bishop that he was responsible for bringing Christianity into Gaul, which is modern-day France.
Mm-hmm.
So he was responsible for spreading Christianity into Europe. And while he's doing that, he's literally like date raping girls in churches.
Yeah, that's a very strange. Yeah, well, I mean, you know, if you it is one part of the Gospels that Christ does say is there's going to be a bunch of people immediately cocking this up. Like I'm paraphrasing him, but yep. I know a lot of from what I understand, the Ophites and what I got from that Tracy Twyman stuff was that the Templars got into being Ophites through the Saracens or something, and so that's serpent worshippers. Yeah. And then I heard those creepy stories from Nathan Reynolds about seeing real Ophites like now still. I was trying to look into anything on that. I found some guy who was a Satanist who was in contact with the Wicca guy and somebody else, and he was called the Hasatan something Ophites, and he's from 1948. That's all I could find of a modern thing, but I doubt I would, you're just going to Google that.
Yeah, it's called Our Lady of Endor Coven. Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah, Endor. Yeah, so the Witch of Endor.
1940s, they were bringing back Ophite rituals. And I think I've heard from people that there's Ophites around today in like California, of course. That's where all the dirty shit's in California. But
Arizona is a big place for it, and New Mexico, and anything that's called a census designated city or town, which I found out from Blair White. It turns out that's some real designation allows a lot of creepy ass groups to do some creepy ass shit. I don't really understand why, but they're called census designated, where they're like not really a town, or they're like almost, I don't know what you compare it to. International waters in their head, I guess, is how they're thinking of it.
Like a sanctuary city or something, like weird, like something different.
Yeah, for creepy ass shit. And the thing that's got me was because I had never heard of Ophite. I heard of serpent worship, and I know there's the serpent race.
Ophite, it literally means Ophis means serpent in Greek. So Ophite is like serpent people. So it's like serpent worship. And then there's a Hebrew version called Nassenes, because the word Nas, Naas,
like Nahash.
Nahash means serpent. Yeah.
The Nassene. Wait.
So the Naascenes or Nassenes.
How you spell it?
They're literally Naassenes. It's literally the same people as the Ophites, but they're using the Hebrew word for serpent rather than Ophite, which is the Greek word. But
where do they go?
It's the same people.
Oh, they're the same group.
And their favorite gospel is John's gospel, because in John's gospel there's a passage where it says, just as Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness,
right,
the Son of Man must be lifted up. And they say, see, John got it. John understood that Jesus was the serpent in the garden who warned Eve to eat the fruit of knowledge.
Yeah, right.
The idea of gnosis comes in, Gnosticism comes in. That knowledge is good, and the serpent never lied. Actually, it was God that lied. So they're pretty hardcore.
I mean, I like because the whole thing is like the legalisms of it, of like the shittiest, wormiest, like Alan Dershowitz of a lawyer trying to. Well, technically, and like it doesn't matter what's true; it matters what you can prove. That's
how they are. That's how these people are. They're going into the Bible and they're like picking apart what it actually says. But technically, the serpent didn't lie. Well, technically, technically, Adam's and Eve's eyes did get open, and they did. What? So maybe that's true. And it's like, you really think the author meant that? Like, come on.
Well,
maybe.
I think all of that's packed in the story. I still don't really get that story. Here's some things I just don't get about, which I would, if I get like Gary Wayne or somebody on, I want to ask him, because one, I don't understand circumcision, why that would have been necessary, and what is that purely some kind of Dune thing to make sure you have the Kwisatz Haderach by controlling people's wieners? I have no idea.
I think it came from medical purposes, because in Egypt they were doing it for medical reasons.
Which is what because it's gross.
because
I heard it's way better, but how would I know?
Because I guess it's clean. I don't know what the medical. I guess you could get diseases.
Why did God say take the little hat, take the tiny hat off your dick and put a tiny hat on your head? Why did God say that? That's what I want to ask.
Right.
Take your dick's hat off when you come in here, but keep one on.
There's actually a pagan myth. It's a Phoenician myth. It's a pagan Phoenician myth where the god whose name is El, which is the same name as, it's the Hebrew word for God, El.
Right.
And El, and then the author actually says this, El, who the Greeks call Kronos, sacrificed his only begotten son, Dude. It looks like Judah.
I love that. Yeah, dude. His name's Dude.
Yeah, Dude. Yeah.
Yeah,
and
dude.
it says after he sacrificed him, he told his fellow countrymen who were Phoenicians that from this day forward, all children will be circumcised on the seventh day.
Because I'm not drawing the connection between those events of why. So because I sacrificed my son, you got to cut your kids.
That's the story. That's the story.
It's so nonsensical. It's almost believable as history, frankly.
That's what people say. People say that too. It's because
it's so
the
arbitrary.
Source that we have for that story comes from a guy named Philo of Byblos, who lived around like 200 or 100, 200 AD. But he says that the source that he got it from is from a guy who lived in 1200 BC. Guy named Sakunyatan.
Okay.
And this guy was a priest of Yahweh. Apparently.
Okay.
A Phoenician priest of Yahweh.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. The Phoenician thing is real. There's some kind of Phoenician connection to every goddamn thing coming up to modern day.
Yep. Because they were the traders. They were the ones who were their cities that they're from are Sidon and Tyre and Byblos, which is north of Israel, which is modern day Lebanon, right? Syria.
Right.
Lebanon.
Okay. Right. Okay.
But they travel to the west and they set up cities in Spain and North Africa, and they go all the way to the Western Mediterranean, and they're trading with the Greeks, they're trading with the Romans, they're trading with the Egyptians. So they got their hands in everything. Okay. They're like the dealers of the ancient world, and they invented the alphabet. Our alphabet today,
right? Well, I know that part. Yeah.
Yeah.
And are they the sea people? Like when the supposed Bronze Age collapse?
No, some people think they're related because they're probably descended from them. But the sea peoples that collapsed the Bronze Age would be the different people.
Oh, okay. So
yeah.
Oh, and were they? Did somebody say like the sea peoples were like Greek or something, or they were coming from
Aegean? That's one theory.
Oh,
like,
okay.
Aegean is like pre-Greek, like Bronze Age Greek, but they don't call themselves Greeks yet. That's later.
Right.
but it'd be the same air, the same islands, the same place. And a lot of people think people from those islands are the ones who invaded the coast of like Lebanon and Israel and Babylon and that stuff. And those are called that's what ended the Bronze Age, pretty much.
Right. So yeah. So the Phoenician thing. Oh, so that guy. This is when I first talked to you. Because what's his name? The dude with the spooky head tattoos. I'm blanking on his name. The guy that you were doing podcasts with him, and then he went to Jerusalem and found out he was the Antichrist.
Alvin Hillman. Yeah.
Yeah.
He hates me now, by the way.
He what?
He hates me now.
Well, who would think that the herald of the Antichrist would be so touchy and hard to get along with? Anyway,
I know, right? I can't even disagree with him.
Well, I know it's very it's really funny. It was like the more things invert, the more they stay the same.
Yeah.
But he I don't think he was wrong about medicine, because that thing of using a human body for antibodies, and a snake bite would be the way you do that, harvesting fluids out of people who got poisoned by something.
And if you read Galen was like dissecting animals and humans. He was doing it's in his work. He tells us this.
Oh,
he's going through and taking out like body parts and using them to extract different stuff. This is in Galen's work.
That's one of the oldest things there is. And you know, I watched, somebody sent me a thing of
Galen's work was the standard medical textbook from 200 AD when he lived, 150 to 200. He lived in like 150 AD, all the way to the 16th century AD. Galen was still the main textbook. That's how advanced he was in like medical science.
Well, you learn a lot from. Look at how much medicine they learned from the Holocaust. And we still have those companies today. We still have those German companies.
Really?
So, yeah. Well, first of all, most of those companies, like Bayer, is that was IG Farben.
Oh yeah, I heard about that. That's true. That's right.
On September 29, 1982, 12-year-old Mary Kellerman died of a heart attack shortly after taking an extra-strength Tylenol. In the next few days, 6 more people in the Chicago area died after taking Tylenol, and testing revealed that cyanide had been mixed among the capsules in these bottles. Investigators said the bottles hadn't been tampered with during the distribution process because the cyanide would have dissolved the capsules after a few days. Instead, they believe someone was opening Tylenol bottles on store shelves, lacing them with cyanide, then putting them back on the shelf, where anyone could have purchased them. This idea that some sort of psycho killer was poisoning bottles of Tylenol at random set off total hysteria.
If you have any Tylenol headache products in your home, do not take them.
Time magazine warned about the maniac in our midst. Newsweek wrote of a psychopath with a diabolical idea for anonymous murder. Illinois Governor James Thompson told residents that we have a madman out there, and hundreds of FBI agents and Chicago police were assigned to find this madman. Drugstores and supermarkets pulled Tylenol from the shelves, and Johnson & Johnson, the makers of Tylenol, recalled 31 million bottles of Tylenol nationwide to test them. The case was seemingly solved when a ransom note demanding $1 million to stop the poisonings was sent to Johnson & Johnson. The note was traced to a man named James Lewis. He had a very strange background, including stays in a mental asylum and an arrest for murder, but he and his wife were in New York at the time of the poisonings, so he was ruled out. This paranoia went on for weeks, and the manhunt for the psychopath Tylenol killer was the #1 news story for the rest of 1982. And then something pretty strange happened. The hysteria surrounding the Tylenol murders just kind of vanished. After being the talk of the nation for months, the whole issue just disappeared. Tylenol relaunched with new tamper-resistant packaging, the media quit covering the story, and the investigation went cold. Still to this day, the official narrative is that the murders were the work of some lone unidentified madman who was poisoning bottles of Tylenol for no apparent reason, then stopped for no apparent reason, and this lone madman was never caught. Now, quote-unquote lone nut madmen have been linked to many infamous crimes over the years, and if you look into these crimes, there's typically way more to the story. Strange backgrounds, coincidences, and things that just don't make sense. And that is definitely true for the Tylenol murders. There are so many mysteries surrounding this case, and one of the biggest involves Tylenol's main competitor, a pretty evil company by the name of Bayer. Now, to me, the most interesting mystery surrounding the Tylenol murders is why were only bottles of Tylenol poisoned? If there was indeed some lone madman who wanted to randomly kill people with cyanide, he could have poisoned anything. Other medication could have just as easily been poisoned, or not even medication. Cyanide could have been sprinkled onto fruit in a grocery store or concealed in bottles of ketchup, salad dressing, anything at all on shelves. So why did this supposed madman only poison Tylenol? And this is where one of the more intriguing explanations for the Tylenol murders comes into play. When the deaths began, it was speculated that these Tylenol poisonings could be a type of corporate sabotage against Tylenol. Basically, one of Tylenol's competitors was trying to ruin the company by sabotaging the product's reputation. Newsweek magazine was one of the first to mention corporate sabotage. They speculated that an overzealous competitor, bloodied by Tylenol in the battle for market share, had the most to gain from the Tylenol scare. Other newspaper articles right after the deaths raised this possibility too. But then the media started focusing on the crazy lone nut madman, and the idea that a Tylenol competitor was behind the poisonings got ignored. But there's a lot about this explanation that makes sense. In 1982, extra-strength Tylenol was still a new product. It had only been around 6 years, but it absolutely dominated the billion-dollar painkiller market. It was called one of the most successful consumer products in history, and in less than a decade, the product had helped Tylenol grow bigger than their closest 4 competitors combined. The company that Tylenol had unseated was Bayer, who had been the number one painkiller for decades but had shrunk to only 7% of the market share due to Tylenol's success. Bayer was an offshoot of German conglomerate IG Farben, and IG Farben was a nasty, nasty company.
During World War II, a company called IG Farben was in charge of making the deadly chemicals used in Nazi concentration camps. As a reward for their help, the IG Farben was allowed to conduct experiments on Jewish prisoners and test out their chemicals and their medications on these people. And once the war ended and the executives from IG Farben were charged with war crimes, they went and formed a new company called Bayer, a company that we're all familiar with today.
So yes, IG Farben's war crimes in World War II were absolutely heinous. During what was dubbed the IG Farben trial after the war, multiple executives were sentenced to prison and Farben was ordered to break up into several smaller companies. Bayer was one of these companies, but Bayer basically became IG Farben Jr. because they simply rehired many Farben executives and board members. For example, IG Farben's Fritz Termeer was sentenced to 7 years in prison after the war for his role in quote-unquote mass murder and enslavement. After he'd served his sentence, he became chairman of the board of directors of Bayer. Beyond their war crimes, Bayer has done a ton of evil things over the years. One of their worst abuses happened in 1983 when it was found that Bayer's Cutter Pharmaceutical Division was selling plasma injections that were contaminated with the HIV virus. Bayer was banned from selling the injections in the USA, so they simply started selling the product in foreign countries, knowing full well that their product was causing AIDS in patients. Thousands ended up dying of AIDS from these injections, and this is considered one of the most horrific things that any corporation has ever done. There are a ton of other examples of Bayer's evilness. It is a plain nasty company, and another interesting note about Bayer is that right before the Tylenol murders occurred, Bayer was in some serious trouble. In mid-1982, studies linked Bayer's aspirin to Reye's syndrome in children, a disease that claimed around 1,000 lives a year. The U.S. Surgeon General advised parents to avoid aspirin-based painkillers like Bayer for children, and there was a push to require Bayer to have a warning about Reye's syndrome on their packaging. Since Tylenol was a non-aspirin pain reliever, it wouldn't have the warning, which could have had a catastrophic effect on Bayer. After all, why would anyone buy a painkiller with a warning label about Reye's syndrome on it instead of the one without a warning label? Then in September 1982, the Tylenol murders happened and stole the headlines. The stories about Bayer and Reye's syndrome got buried and forgotten. Tylenol became the big boogeyman, and sales plummeted so badly that many believed it would end the company for good. And the timing is so interesting, how this happened right as Bayer was receiving a ton of negative publicity about Reye's syndrome and losing massive market share to Tylenol.
I mean, you know how after the war, most of those companies, the corporations were fine. They
and their car companies like Volkswagen and what's the other one?
Dude, Adidas, Bruno, whatever. They're all whatever. Hey,
Porsche.
Let bygones be bygones, I guess. But
yeah,
all of the thing that holds back progress, right, is you can't just do things to people without a lot of pesky, local laws and social mores.
Yeah.
So if you're somebody that's willing to do whatever the fuck, you probably can make advancements real quick with just trial and error alone.
Yeah, because nobody wanted to do what Galen was doing for centuries. Nobody wants to dissect human beings and animals and elephants. He's got a book on elephants, dissecting elephants, a whole book from Galen, just on how to dissect elephants.
But why? Like, was it, what were they using their organs for boners?
Studying,
like,
just for knowledge.
Well, I wonder how much.
That's the difference between the pagan world and the Christian world. The pagans were trying to figure out everything about the universe and about they're scientifically minded, trying to figure out things. The Christians were like, no, we don't need to, that's unholy. Just focus on salvation.
Are you talking about the Christians as in
Middle Ages?
When?
Like Middle Ages.
Yeah. Well,
400,
look,
500, 600, 800.
I would say by the time I would say things probably went south as far as there being like the church pretty quickly after the last of the last guys were dead that might have known Christ. You know what I mean? Like, just if you think of anybody that knew, if I just think of guys I know that died just in my life, that I watch people interpret them in crazy ways.
Yeah.
You know, like, it don't take long. It almost immediate. It's
right.
Almost immediate. So
you can imagine how many people were telling stories that were a little bit more like emphasizing certain things decades down the road. And then that gets picked up by someone else, and then it's and then you can see the difference between Mark and John, the Gospels, how there's a progression. They call it Christology. It's like basically how divine in Jesus, the level of divinity. And Mark's Gospel, he's divine. Don't get me wrong, he's the Son of God, but he's not like the God. And then you get to John's Gospel, he's literally the Logos incarnate, who was there in the beginning with the Father.
Okay, but that wait. If he's there in the beginning with the Father, that's still, I'm not hearing that he's God. I always, and I used to get in these arguments, by the way, and I want everybody to know, I don't give a shit about how many heads you think God had. But I used to argue this with Pentecostals when I was like young, like we're arguing about comic books or something. And I'll go, and I still don't get, he goes, I and the Father are one. Okay. Is that what I'd say if I was my dad? Like, why would he just go, I'm God? Why would you say it in such bizarre ways?
Right.
If I'm getting an impression there's some succession or there's a position here,
there's a
and
little
it's
bit
not
of
the
separation.
same guy.
Yeah, there's a little bit of separation for sure.
And I really don't see, but let's say it's three guys in one that are somehow different but the same. Okay. I don't understand how my salvation would depend on me believing that or not. Do you know what I mean? Like when you see the amount of consternation
Makes
about
no
it,
sense. Yeah.
Because the whole point of Christ, from what I could tell, is to get you out of your slave bondage you're born into here, right?
Right.
That's it. They sacrificed the wrong guy.
Salvation.
All these people sacrifice their kids, all these rulers. It's a standard practice for years and years to take your firstborn, your first fruits, and sacrifice them to whatever weirdo Baal you fucking worship. So,
yeah.
But that's all because humans are, and these little, this is why I can't stand like clever Satanist types with their little, I hate tricky bullshit people so much. Like, well, technically you're not, no one's innocent. It's all that legalism shit. And to me, the whole story is, if you want to believe in it, or what would appeal to me about it is these assholes that business as usual, and then they do that. They gotta get a sting operation into killing a guy that legally they had no recourse to kill, and there's no getting out of it for them. So now it's a legal loophole for all of us under the serpent people. That's how I take it. So there's no other part of the doctrine that I don't care about his mom like that.
That's a fair assessment. Jesus is like a loophole in the system.
Yeah, and so I just go off of themes, and it's a theme in a lot of things, but like, I don't care about your goddamn lineage, everyone, and your stupid fucking royalty. I hate kings, and I hate fucking bloodline and all that dumb shit. I mean, you could blame it on lizard people, but lizards don't do this. This is real monkey ass shit.
Yeah,
it really is.
It really is.
Maybe dinosaurs do. Maybe that's what it is.
Yeah.
But did you, because you grew up in that church thing, was it like a big Trinity thing with you growing up? Like,
yeah, the Trinity is like such a, it's like the weirdest thing because
pondered the mysteries of Mickey, I tried to think of what, if any, occult significance there might be to the 3 circles of the Mickey Mouse head Disney logo. I thought of all the typical things, the Trinity and such. I've already mentioned the club connection that I found. Then I thought about the 3 circles that are used to represent the 3 gold balls, which are themselves the emblem of St. Nicholas. They stand for the 3 bags of gold that, according to the hagiography of Nicholas, were used by the saint to ransom the lives of 3 children. There are various versions of this myth. In one, the gold is given to the father of 3 girls to use for their dowries, so that he can marry them off, to save them from a life of prostitution. This explains why the emblem of the 3 circles, or 3 golden balls, is associated in some countries with the business of pawnbrokering. In another version, the balls represent 3 boys who accidentally wandered away from their family and were lured into the shop of an evil, cannibalistic butcher. The butcher killed the boys and submerged their bodies within 3 barrels filled with brine, intending to sell their meat as pork. But Nicholas intuitively figured out what the butcher had done, opened the barrels, and somehow magically resurrected the boys, who then returned home. Thus, according to the Birthday Book of Saints by Sean Kelly and Rosemary Rogers, Nicholas became, quote, a patron of all children in a pickle ever since. Meanwhile, according to tradition, the spirit of the evil butcher has been following Nicholas, quote, in penance, taking the form of a figure called by the French Père Foutard. While the word foutard defied Google's auto-translator and did not appear in my Langenscheidt French-English dictionary from 1968, the latter source did give me the definition of fouet, which is a whip or birch rod. Fouetter is the verb for the act of flogging a child. This would go along not only with the imagery of Foutard's own penance, self-flagellation, but also the imagery of child discipline that accompanies Foutard's mythological counterparts in other countries. For he is certainly the same figure as Zwart Pieten, or Black Pete, counterpart of Sinterklaas, as St. Nicholas is called in Belgium, the Netherlands, and the Lower Rhine in Germany. The job of Black Pete, who appears in blackface, is to flog and threaten children who have been bad, punishing them by only giving them a lump of coal for Christmas, while his more positive counterpart gives away toys and candy to the nice kids. In some countries, Pete is paired with or replaced by a child-eating satyr called Krampus, a monstrous creature with snarling fangs and huge goat horns. Krampus actually threatens to kidnap the bad children and take them away to his, quote, lair to have his way with them. Of course, we are talking about the character who inspired Santa Claus, or Father Christmas, whom I have exposed in previous writings as a personification of the child-eating Saturn or Kronos, Father Time, from Greco-Roman myths. While we in the USA recognize Santa Claus as part of the celebration of the birth of Jesus Christ on December 25th, the actual feast of St. Nicholas is generally celebrated on the 5th or 6th of December, and on the 19th in some places. The 6th is the date observed most commonly, but the 5th is his day in the Netherlands. Festivities usually occur on both days anyway, just as we also celebrate Christmas Eve. The traditional activities for the feast day of St. Nicholas include the giving of small gifts to children by apparitions of the fabled saint. Gifts are placed inside of socks or shoes that have been put by the fire. The red suit that Santa Claus wears purportedly derives from the bishop's robes worn by Sinterklaas in these older European traditions. In Germany and Poland, boys used to dress up as bishops on the saint's feast day and beg in the streets for alms for the poor. This is interesting in many ways because in my French dictionary, the word fou is defined as an adjective meaning mad, insane, crazy, or a noun for a lunatic or a fool. It is also a word for the bishop figure in chess. The first definitions would fit well with Père Foutard's image as a child murderer, but as he is described as a butcher by trade, it's rather strange that he's addressed as Père, meaning father, as though he's a priest, and his name appears to also connect with the imagery of a bishop via the game of chess. After all, it's Nicholas who is the bishop and Father Christmas, right? But then recall the traditions of Christmas. If you caught Santa Claus leaving you a present on Christmas morning and you defrocked him, what would you find? Your own father, most likely, right? Nicholas is the, quote, nice father who gives you things. Foutard, aka Krampus or Black Pete, is the mean father who punishes you for being bad, at best with a lump of coal instead of presents, or worse, by kidnapping, raping, and killing you. Foutard is merely the dark side of Nicholas. Historically, Nicholas lived in the 3rd century and was the bishop of the city of Myra, located in modern Turkey. There is a story about his work as a theologian that is considered apocryphal by some, but may actually be true. It is said that he attended the First Council of Nicaea, where he argued in favor of the doctrine of the Trinity. Purportedly, he even got violent about it, punching the heretic Arius in the face himself. So the figure of Nicholas is historically fused with the concept that the Most High God has 3 personalities. Therefore, the idea of Nicholas having a child-murdering altar personality doesn't seem far-fetched at all. Furthermore, it is interesting to consider the possibility that this may be connected to the St. Nicholas symbol of 3 circles arranged in a triangle, which are even shown at the bottom of his stole in most depictions of him. In Christianity, 3 such circles intertwined represents the Trinity. In occult parlance, 3 dots arranged in a triangle are used somewhat like an ellipsis is used in punctuation. They represent a word that has been omitted. Often in the internal documents of secret societies, we see the name of the group, the titles of its officers, and the names of its members written with just the initials, each letter followed by the triangle of dots. So are the 3 dots associated with Nicholas also meant to represent the Trinity?
It's funny because the Trinity as a doctrine is from the 4th century, 325 AD.
It's not Hindu or nothing before that? Like in that the Two Babylons book by what's his name?
Oh, Alexander Hislop?
Yeah, Jehovah's Witnesses love that book. And I read it when I was a kid.
Alexander Hislop was a Protestant who was trying to make the Catholics look like pagans.
I mean,
so he's arguing
pagans.
that the Trinity is pagan. In a way, there's some truth to what he's saying, because Plato, who's a pagan, believed, or he proposed a sort of a god who he has different names for him. The good,
the monad,
the one, or the demiurge is another name for him, which means craftsman, the creator. But
wait. He says demiurge, but as the good, not the bad guy.
Not the Gnostic bad one. It's a different type of. People mix that up a lot. But Plato's demiurge is good. He's all good. He's all perfect. He's all knowing. But he also says that this God has a nature of 3, and that there's 3 natures to him. He has a spiritual nature, and then he has a corporal and incorporeal nature, which is matter and like immaterial.
Doesn't that sound like just a dude? Like any dude that you know?
Yeah, it's just a weird Trinity God kind of thing.
Well,
you can see with Christianity, it's almost like they're mapping on Plato's philosophy onto the Christian God.
So that's 4th century is when that starts?
4th. Well, it starts a little bit before that, but it becomes official doctrine in 325. But you can see the church fathers in like the 200s starting to push the idea of a triad God.
Right.
But yeah, so in a way, does that make it pagan? No, I don't think so. I just think Plato's ideas were so popular, everyone adopted them. Everyone was doing it. The Hermetic, I don't know if you heard of the Hermetic religion.
Yeah.
Hermes Trismegistus. They have a triad God too, a Trinity.
And that predate Plato, or is that after Plato?
It's after Plato. This is all after Plato. And also, you also have another called the Chaldean Oracles, Chaldean Oracles, and they have a Trinity God too, a triad God, made up of Kronos, Zeus, and Dionysus.
Have you ever seen that guy's? I can't remember his channel, man. I'm sorry, I can't remember your channel, but he has a lot of readings of people at the time, and I don't know which Greek or Roman this is writing about the Phoenicians and their gods, but it's all about Saturn.
That's the one I was just telling you about.
Yeah, but it says they're people. Oh,
that's
you know what? That's why I know the name. Yes,
Sakunyatan from the Bronx. Yeah, Kronos, who the Phoenicians call El, who was a king of the country and subsequently, after his decree, was deified as the star Saturn, had by a nymph of the country named Anobret, an only begotten son, whom on this account was called Yedud, the only begotten being still so called among the Phoenicians. And when very great dangers from war had beset the country, he arrayed his son in royal apparel, prepared an altar, and sacrificed him, and then circumcised himself, and made it a custom among the Phoenicians from that day forward. The oldest attested version of Genesis goes back to Sankoniaten, before the collapse of the Bronze Age, and his writings survived in temples. And according to Philo of Byblos, this is what it says. Philo of Byblos' writings are passed down through Eusebius. And this is all we have left.
So he says they're people. The Phoenicians say these were people.
Yes.
They weren't gods. They were people that did this, right?
Well, they were on planet Earth, but they were divine though. So they were like daemons or daimons. They were on human. They were like, they could die and stuff. They could go to war and get killed, but they were like divine.
They're demigods.
Yeah, demigods.
Or Nephilim or whatever you want to call them, depending on
And they all descended from this god called Elion, who was the Most High, according to this source.
Okay, so there's El Elyon, and then there's El in...
And then a couple branches down, you get to El. There's a few steps in between, though. But the more you go down, the more mortal they become until you get to humans.
Oh, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
And then what Kal-El, a.k.a.
That's very
Superman.
common for pagan. That's very common. Hesiod is another Greek poet from the 7th century BC, or around the same time as Homer. He had this idea, too, that first there was chaos, and then from chaos, you get Eros, Nyx, and then heaven, Uranos, Kronos, Zeus, and then the first mortal man, which is, he calls him Pelasgus or whatever.
He calls him what?
Pelasgus.
The first mortal man was Polish? I don't believe it.
Yeah, Polish. No, but they call it, because the first humans, he calls them Pelaskians. And that means, I guess
that's what I'm calling them now.
I guess it's related to the word Philistine, by the way. Some people think this.
Why? Why is that
interesting?
interesting?
The Egyptians are, in the Egyptian sources, it refers to the Philistines as Pelestet, Pelestet. And we actually know that the Philistines came from the Aegean. They were basically pre-Greek, proto-Greeks that came over here. And so the theory is, this is a pretty well-established theory, is that the Pelasgians are actually the Philistines.
Oh, interesting. What? How come the Philistines had that? You know that like grass hat they had, where it looked like Guile's hair from Street Fighter.
Yeah, it almost looks like an archaic version of like the Spartan helmets. Well, you know, with the and the Romans had that too.
Okay, so I didn't realize that. I thought they were calling them. And when I was watching somebody reading the Philo of Byblos thing. And it sounded like, because all these gods and demigods, they all just sound like really rich people. They all just sound like ditties. I mean,
that's pretty much what they are.
Yeah, they're all ditty
like
parties.
Zeus has his Ganymede. I don't know. You know who Ganymede is?
Oh my, yes.
So Zeus turns into an eagle, and he goes and picks up this prepubescent boy.
That's how you do it.
And he kidnaps him, grapes him. I'm not trying to say it, you know.
Yeah,
and then he keeps him as his slave, as his cupbearer.
Is he a eunuch at this point as well?
I don't know if he makes him a eunuch, but he might as well at this point. We're already close enough.
I mean, yeah,
but that does happen too. You get eunuchs are made.
Yeah, the thing is so funny is if you think of these topics such as gay and straight, it's such yet another, to me, Masonic checkerboard thing where these people don't believe in that. They believe it. Like, I'm sure Zeus, I don't know that the myths cover this, but I bet Zeus didn't go around saying he's gay and in the closet and can't. Zeus just like, manly. I just stick my dick in whatever, dude.
That's what Zeus was doing. He didn't care what it was.
It's weird that they had a designation of pansexual based on pan when all these assholes it's the same story. They'll turn into an eagle. Why would you turn into it anyway?
Do you know the story of the birth of Pan?
No.
So there's different versions, but the most intense one. So this is, a lot of people don't know this. In Homer's Odyssey, Penelope is Odysseus's wife.
That's how you say it. I call her Pino. I've been calling her Penelope.
Well, in the traditional story, in the original Homeric story, the whole point of the story of Penelope is that she stays loyal while he's at war for 10 years, doesn't bang anyone else while she doesn't cheat on him, and she waits for him to come back, and then everything's all good. But then later on, 300 BC, which is like 400 years later after Homer, these Hellenistic poets, they change the story. They do a remix.
Okay.
And they say that while Odysseus was off to war, Penelope not only cheated, She banged every single dude who came up to her at the same time.
Well, that's
And guess what?
180
She had an
degrees from what I
orgy.
heard. Yeah.
She had an orgy with like 70 dudes at once, and then that's how Pan was born, from all of the dudes inseminating her at the same time.
Okay, which one of you has goat hooves? Raise your hand. Who didn't disclose they have goat feet in this goddamn
And
orgy?
that's how you get the devil Pan, I guess. He looks like the devil, you know?
Well, yeah, but he was like, he was just like
He wasn't evil.
grape incarnate.
He was he just liked sex and drinking and being out in the wild.
He didn't care if you didn't like it in the moment while he would like it. I think was a key component.
Yeah,
of him.
there's some depictions of ancient statues of Pan, like getting close to kids, and like you can see like there's one famous one where there's a little kid playing a flute, and he looks like he's like scared, and Pan is like holding onto him like, "Hey kid."
Where's that?
I could pull it up if you want.
Yeah, will you? I would like to
I'll
see
look
that.
it up right now. See, this is the kid, and then there's Pan.
Oh, that's not good.
You can that looks very suggestive. Pan
Wait,
and
can you wait? Let me make my screen bigger so I can. Oh, that looks like Diddy with Bieber before Flavor Camp.
It's definitely Diddy. It's definitely Pan Diddy.
Dude, he goes, yeah, we call Flavor Camp, and like you should put
And
a
he's a
Lamborghini.
musician too. He's like, I'll sign you a deal.
Yo, that's
kid.
Bieber, dude. That's Bieber.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my God, he's got the same posture as Bieber in that video.
Isn't that crazy? But look at this one. Ready? Check this out. Oh, I don't know why I can't back out. Oh, here we go. There's another one where he's actually banging a goat right here.
Oh yeah. Oh boy, that leaves. There's no dispute on that one there. I was
Yeah,
like,
he's definitely
maybe
banging
he's
a goat.
just wrestling. Oh no, it's. Yo, my girlfriend's art podcast with the one where Zeus is like a goose on top of some chick. They demonetized her for bringing it up, even though it's a fine art piece.
Yeah, we're just looking at art here. We're not doing anything bad, right?
Well, I kept pointing out that there was definitely full penetration, and I think that triggers some sort of AI or something.
But that's in a museum, so I mean, if the museum can have it, why can't we?
Because this shit is created by Susan of YouTube, who's passed on now.
Yeah,
from turbo cancer.
Is that what happened?
Yeah, she got the real jab. Who saw that coming? I figured she would have been the no. She's the one.
She looked like she was very healthy a couple years ago.
Oh, a lot of people did, but
that's crazy, dude. That's nuts. Whenever someone that powerful just drops dead like that, my brain goes right to conspiracy mode.
Well, this might shed some light on it. She won the Stanford kid marshmallow experiment. She was the Charlie Chocolate Factory winner of that, where the kids don't eat the marshmallows. You know, they put the marshmallows and they go, if you could eat a marshmallow now, but if you don't eat any, I'm going to leave. Just don't eat any, and I'll bring you like more marshmallows. I don't remember but it's to see if they could delay gratification, supposedly, is the test. They show it. You can find footage of it.
Give you a prize for having done so well. Do you like marshmallows? You do? Well, here's a marshmallow for you. You can eat it now, but if you wait until I come back, you can have 2 of them. So you can eat this now, but I'm going to go outside for a minute. When I come back, you can have 2 marshmallows if you wait.
Okay, I'll wait.
Do you think you could wait? Okay, let's see. I'll be back in a minute. See.
Notice the body language is wonderful. Just totally looks away the whole time. Too hot. Little distraction.
Hello. You waited. You waited for me. Okay, so now you know what's going to happen. You're going to get a double treat. I'm going to give you 2 of these lovely marshmallows. You want to eat them now or save them for later? Okay, well, go ahead. A little sticky.
I've had marshmallows before.
Well, some children waited, others just ate it.
Right, you got it right. So I'm going to give you a prize. I'm going to give you a treat. And the treat is a delicious marshmallow. But if you wait, I have to go check my car. When I come back, if you wait, you can have 2 of them. You can have 1 now, or when I come back, you can have 2. Okay? Okay.
Licking her lips. Just temptation, or just capital T. Sorry.
Hello, my dear. You ate the marshmallow. Was it delicious? Do you like marshmallows?
Now, this kid is wonderful.
You don't like marshmallows?
Look at that face.
Do you like chocolate?
Yeah.
Okay, well,
I love chocolate.
the treat you have won is a chocolate. But, if you wait till I come back, you could get 2. You could eat this now. I have to go check my car. And when I come back, if you wait, I'll give you 2 of them.
Okay.
So you can eat it now, but if you wait till I come back, you have 2. Okay? You think you could wait? Okay. So I will be back in a few minutes. So you can eat it now.
4 times.
But if you wait, you're going to have 2 of them. Okay, I'll be back soon.
I'm not out of the door. I love the little skull and crossbones. Like a total boy. And he's just enjoying it, minding his own business, eating away.
Hello, I'm back.
Now listen carefully.
Good. I waited.
No, you ate it. You ate the chocolate.
And it's the kids are cute. They're like, because you can see them like really wrestling, like it's the forbidden fruit. It's actually watching these kids try to refrain from eating these marshmallows. It reminds you, like the Adam and Eve story, whatever it is.
Yeah.
There's something about a
That's
child
exactly
like
what it is. Yeah. God
like
leaves and then he waits for them to mess up.
well, it's a childlike brain. It's like a test, you know. And anyway, so Susan from YouTube was the one who waited who like was the goodest.
When was this? When she was younger?
Yeah. And I got this from that guy Jack Krause was talking about it, and you could find it. But anyway, her mom and her sister's the one that ran 23andMe, or she's a CEO, and then good Epstein pal. And then it went under and she resigned. And the mother wrote a book about raising 2 great daughters. So I'm just going to cut to the chase. To me, I just go, that's an MK Monarch family. She put her daughters in all these creep ass programs. That disgusting experiment was an obedient. They found kids that waited longer for their marshmallows had better outcomes in life. Well, what I think it is to see how obedient they were. To grooming them for submission to power. Because I'm sure a couple of them kids already had a harsh dose of what the world is way too early in life if their parents are putting them in experiments at Stanford.
Yeah.
And I'll bet they said, how do I know I can trust you, motherfucker? I'm just going to take my fucking marshmallows now. I'll bet you that's because they're not looking for smarts. They're looking for, will you do what you're told? So when I tell you to take the real jab, will you do it?
Yeah.
And the fact that she was so dumb in that marshmallow test, I mean, you think it got better now? Why would they put someone who thinks in charge of this or anything?
Right. Who will actually follow or abide to what we're doing and turn the other cheek?
Okay, wait. So the reason why I ask you about the fight. Oh, okay. So with the Templars, because you know Jesse Michaels.
Yeah. I
Okay.
think so.
So Jesse's always like, nah, Templars are okay. I don't think so. I don't think they are, Jesse. I don't think they are okay. But I'm sure a lot of people, Scott Horton, who I stole having a pipe from, he said he doesn't see the problem with like the Bohemian Grove ceremony. He's like, well, so what if they hang out and sacrifice their conscience to an owl in the woods so that they don't feel bad about the shit they do? Like, he didn't say it like that, but my whole thing is you're portraying yourself as something else. That's the only issue I have. Like, I want you to be whatever you are, so I'm not being tricked by somebody, you know? And so for all these conservative evangelical people to be engaged in that should tell you right there you're being run by the serpent race, right? A snake sheds its skin, don't it? It could be
Yeah.
a new thing.
Well, it's interesting about you mentioned the Templars because their image of Baphomet is heavily inspired by Pan, who we were just talking about.
But by the
Well,
way,
yeah.
this whole thing about Templars and Baphomet is kind of a thing, except that the Jew that created the Baphomet was not a Jew. He's an incognito
know.
Roman Catholic. Eliphas
Yeah,
Levi
right.
was actually Alphonse Louis Constant, a Roman Catholic Belgian.
Yes,
The rustic Pan.
dude.
He's got the goat legs and he's got the horns.
That's in Tracy Twyman's research because she got all that Joseph Hammer Perkstall shit, and the illustrations are really creepy, man.
Oh yeah.
In fact,
And the reason why Pan becomes the image of the devil
yeah,
is because in a Christian sense, everything earthly and fleshly is evil.
well, could you put that picture back up while you tell me?
Yeah. Let me see if I can find. Yeah, right here. So this is Pan, for anyone watching.
Yeah, wait.
I'll go to this. Yeah.
That picture, that's unbelievable. I've never seen that sculpture. That's really
Oh yeah,
something.
this is an ancient statue from I want to say 300 BC, something like that.
I'm gonna have to make clips of this with Bieber and that, because that is astonishing, dude.
Yeah. So the reason why he becomes the image of the devil in Christianity, because this is just so we're clear, there is not a single passage in any Bible book, whether it's from the 66 books of the King James or any of the apocryphal stories anywhere, where Satan or the devil is depicted with horns and hoven feet and goat legs. That's not biblical.
None of the angels got wings either, right?
No, they're not. They don't. You're
Well,
right.
they do, but
There's
like,
certain kinds of they're called seraphim that have the wings.
are those
But
are those
regular
winged
angels-
serpents?
The
Are those-
regular
yeah.
angels are called. The word is just messenger
Right.
in Greek, angelos, and then in Hebrew it's Beni Elohim, which means sons of God. They're just sons. They're sons of God. Anyways, there is no depiction of of Satan or the devil in any Bible book looking like this. This is Pan.
right.
But what happens is, over time, the church starts to depict the devil like this because Pan, the word in Greek, Pan, means all.
Mm-hmm.
He's the God of all nature, all fleshly desires, and all of the earth. He's
Well,
an
he
earthly
kind
God,
of there's a
chthonic
bit of syncretism there. I'm hearing.
exactly. So that's evil to the church. He's basically the face of paganism. And in
Right.
fact, the word pagan, paganus in Latin means rustic. And Pan is the rustic god. He's the god of the countryside, the rustic people. So he becomes the image of the rustic nature. And so over time, you start seeing the devil being portrayed like this because the devil is fleshly desire, sex.
Well, you know how they would put it. It's the people that worship the creation and not the creator. That's the big sin of.
That's
right?
what they would. That's how they would think about it. And so that's why Pan ends up becoming identical with the devil. That's how.
Yeah, well, I mean, it
makes sense.
It's as good a mask as any for a thing. I thought. So am I right? Hasatan is just a position, so there'd be a number of. I mean, in the Bible, there's not.
Hasatan means like the opposer, the accuser.
So is that? I know they. I look at it like it's the DA, like it's Maureen Comey.
Yeah.
Okay, which is like a rigged, unfair.
Jesus is the lawyer.
Yeah,
Satan
he's your
is the DA against. He's trying to prosecute you.
I look at it like that. Jesus is your public, like you get a free public defender, right? And
Jesus is your public defender.
One thing these corporate types hate is you getting any kind of free shit,
right?
And that's why. So that's my whole thing. Is like I don't say I'm a Christian or I believe whatever. I just know I'm entitled in this paradigm I live in. I get a free phone call to Jesus if it goes bad, and I want it, officer. I demand it.
It's interesting because in court they have 12 jurors, just like 12 disciples or 12 sons of Jacob.
Is that why? I thought court's like some big Masonic ceremony.
There's definitely a lot of overlap between biblical numerology and like how our court systems are. I think.
And is that what all that 33 shit's about?
33, 72 is another big one.
Yeah.
72 elders, 72 not the 12 disciples, but there's 72 greater disciples outside of that group. in Luke. But yeah, the number 72 comes up, 33 comes up, 12 comes up a lot.
Right.
3, obviously. 7.
Yeah, well, I got a very good friend of mine she's into all that goofy shit with numbers. You know, like angelology and shit.
Yeah.
I don't know if she would call it that, but she would always for a while just point out numbers like, oh, that's my angel number. I'm like, I don't think that's she was going to church. I'm like, I don't think that's a compatible thing, just so you know. And she just tells me that's how angels communicate is by numbers.
By numbers?
I go, look, not all the angel, it means messenger. I actually told her that doesn't mean a good message all the time.
Yeah.
But I watch people that are like slaves of this number shit while they got to call out. Like I'm dumb at math, so maybe that's why I hate it so much. Like I'm better with words.
Yeah, me too.
And I gematria, I resent the shit out of it.
Yeah, that actually comes from the pagans, by the way. The Pythagorean pagans. The word gematria means like it's a Greek word. It means like it's where we get the word geometry from. Because number.
Oh, really?
Math
I didn't know
geometry in ancient Greece. Math and geometry were one thing. You did math with geometry. So number 1 was represented by a one-sided a shape, and then 2, 3, and then like you get to like octagon, 8, and then dodecacon, and like that's all symbols. And the Pythagoreans were like obsessed with this numerology stuff, and they did gematria in Greek. Mm-hmm. And it's even some of these early Gnostics that were doing gematria still. The Valentinians were. That's what they're called.
Is that why Revelation has that?
Revelation has the 666. Jesus in Greek equals 888. So
why did it used to be 616, or is that incorrect?
So 666 is the Greek version of the Bible. The Neron Caesar in Greek equals 666. Mm-hmm. And if you take the same exact story and translate it into Latin, Neron Caesar in Latin equals 616. Oh, so that's how we know it's Caesar. Because if nobody, you could not plug in anyone else's name and get 666 and 616. There's no other name you can find.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's very interesting.
That's how we know it's Caesar.
So we have 2-factor authentication on this one.
Exactly. Because if we didn't have the Latin version of the Bible, mm-hmm. and Jerome didn't translate it as 616, we might not know it's Caesar. We might think it might have been someone else. But the fact that he translated it and then he changes the math to correlate the Latin is basically like we know it's Caesar.
So here's a question: do you know why? So at one point, Lucifer becomes synonymous with Satan. Okay, and
it's based on a completely mistranslation.
No, I know that, but I want to know. You know who Saint Lucifer of Cagliari is?
Yeah.
He's like, okay, is that like a smear on that guy? Was that like a thing? Oh, okay.
Because it just means light bring. It's actually a common Latin name. It was a common Latin name until it got
clearly.
sustained.
If a bishop is called that, it clearly must have not meant the devil.
The name Luke is from Lucifer. Luke.
Oh.
Lucan. It means light. Luke means light.
Oh,
it's
that's
Latin word for
what's
light.
That George Lucas movie? Jewish Space Lasers is about that.
Yeah, George Lucas has Lucas.
Have you seen Jewish Space Lasers? Anyone?
That's what. So you have this figure, Lucifer in Latin, who's a light bringer.
Yeah, right.
Comes every morning and brings the light. But what happened is in the book of Isaiah 14,
he's talking about Babylon.
What's that?
He's talking about the king of Babylon, right?
Yes. And Isaiah is talking about the king of Babylon who was so great, but he fell from his greatness. He was so great, he was like Lucifer.
Do you know what it reminds me of?
And in Hebrew, it's Hallel ben Shachar, which means the shining one, son of dawn.
I thought that, Hallel ben Shachar actually means the howling one and not the shining one. Also, that story about him pointing it out, I don't know if you ever saw this, I think you're younger than me, but when David Spade pissed off Eddie Murphy because he was doing the Hollywood Minute on SNL, and Eddie Murphy had done Pluto Nash, and he goes, and so David Spade goes, "Look, kids, a falling star." I know that's exactly what Isaiah's doing.
Yeah.
Look, children, it's a falling star. Make a wish. Yes, that's right. You make a Hollywood Minute omelet, you break some eggs.
What he did to Eddie Murphy.
You were great like this big bright star, and now you have fallen. And if you think about it, and then the Greek version of that is Hallel ben Shekar is the Hebrew. The Greek version, he uses the word eos for us, dawn bringer. You were like the dawn bringer. You were like the bringer of the dawn, and now you're nothing.
So is that a perennial title almost? Like you could say,
and then the Latin version, which is way later, 400 AD, then you get Lucifer, and then what happens is
it's sarcastic.
somebody somewhere messes up and thinks that the Lucifer falling is a play on an apocryphal myth, because there's an apocryphal story of Satan being an angel and then falling from heaven. Satan was a fallen angel.
In what apocryphal story?
It's an apocryphal story. It's in one of these. I have these. I have these New Testament apocryphal books. There's so many of them.
Is that why people were interpreting Revelation? Like a third of the stars fall from heaven, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, there's so many.
Is that because the people studying are also looking at this stuff and they're correlating it to the Bible books, and that's where we're getting a lot of this?
Yeah, exactly. There's literally hundreds of apocryphal books that are written from 1st century, 2nd century, 3rd century, 4th century, 5th century, even 6th and 7th century. Christians are still writing new stories, like the Apocryphon of James, or the Apocrypha of Philip, of the Apocrypha of Matthew. There's so many. There's hundreds of them.
I like how Christianity officially didn't recognize the extended universe, the Star Wars extended universe of
they're like
George Lucas don't accept it neither. George Lucifer.
Yeah. But anyways, in one of these really late, like I think 4th or 5th century versions of Satan, he falls as a fallen angel. So what happened is somebody applies this backwards onto Isaiah, the king of Babylon falling like Lucifer, and says that was Satan falling. It's a complete misreading of Isaiah.
Well, I was taught that in the Jehovah's. They taught us that. We didn't think Lucifer was the name of
So
Satan.
They knew their theology.
I mean, I'm surprised how much stuff from Jehovah's Witnesses of like Bible things I hear scholars say will be accurate.
Yeah.
My issues with it was I don't trust the authority of the governing body as far as I could throw them. And after,
a lot of times with people that are obsessed with Bible, they know their shit. They're just a little too crazy with it. They're just dude, that's how Jehovah's Witnesses are. They actually know their shit. I'm not gonna lie.
I would be like that, and like I said, I never saluted the flag, which I couldn't be more proud of. And I've never joined the military, and they don't get involved in politics because his kingdom is no part of this world. And he's going to destroy all of it, was the promise. Doomsday, I always say doomsday call, and I think I don't understand how people think of that when I say doomsday wasn't going to be bad for us. I can't wait for doomsday. It was bad for you.
Right.
So
that's how every Christian should feel. Yeah.
When you hear like they're trying to keep the apocalypse from happening, automatically that's the bad guy. If you're into the lore, anybody who's trying to keep it from coming is the bad guy. Also,
which is so crazy to think about, that there are Christians, billions of Christians, that want the world to end. And
I want this. I 100% would like this particular. See, that's the thing. These stories, it's like a perennial name, and I much like The Simpsons, that it has something for the smartest and the dumbest people. The Bible is very much like that to me. Like everybody gets a thing because this is Babylon now. It's the same. These are repeating patterns. Is the whole point to me of these stories.
I agree.
And that's why you could go by the themes. That's why I don't like to get too hung.
Themes that happen in all these kingdoms.
I don't want to get too hung up on doctrines and bullshit, because I think that is like, at the end of the day, like, what do you get? That's just like a skin. I want to know like the heart of the thing, and if anything appeals about Jesus in the story, whatever the historical real thing that happened was, the appeal of the story is you don't got to be a slave to that nonsense of just your skin deep. All these things that are aesthetics. Aesthetics are part of like Pan's domain,
right?
And then you watch these maniacs where you cover a lot of good. I learned a lot from your channel, especially. But the thing that I found interesting was the idea that all the creation is just bad, like an evil God made the world, and that's not really how the story started out. The story, it was fine, and then some whatever snake thing came in and dicked around and tricked someone with the mind of a child,
right?
And so that's it. Almost seems like a scam to get you out of your body so I could hijack it and go have a ball, because I think there's a lot of dead things that want to be alive things, you know?
Right. That's how a lot of people saw it. That's how you get these Gnostic groups to begin with. They're trying to wrestle with this idea that, like, how could a perfect creator who's all knowing, all loving, all powerful, blame his own creation for mistakes that he made? They're thinking these ways.
That's how I thought about it for quite a long time, but I had like all this initiation shit. And again, I keep bringing up Tracy Twyman, but I think she had great insights in this shit. Eve gets initiated into like street smarts by the serpent. Now, you were talking about before about where they change Penelope's her chastity from like she was like I waited until and she did fucked everybody. And
the original version, right?
They did that with Eve. I mean, they did it with Adam and Eve, I guess, right? Yeah. They had it where they all have a side piece out of nowhere.
Yeah,
and Eve is
they start writing these new versions of the story. You start getting different versions later on.
What do you think that tree of knowledge thing refers to? Like the best I got is that marshmallow thing, but I don't think it's sex. I really just don't believe that.
Here's what I think. I think the point of the story is that humans are cursed with consciousness. When you see a squirrel running around jumping from tree to tree, that squirrel is just thinking about their next eating the next nut, right? They're not thinking about my uncle is going to pass away in a couple months because he's old. They're not thinking about like the universe, or like we have this ability to think really deeply about things. It's a curse though, because we're always thinking about, oh, my loved ones are going to pass away. What am I going to do when my grandfather passes away? It's a burden that we carry because we're so knowledgeable. So I think the tree of knowledge is you take a bite of knowledge and you get really smart, and you have
to carry a thing that you can't.
You're cursed. You're literally you're cursed with death because now you're aware of death.
Right.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
So
right.
I think that's what it means.
But I mean, like, is there a tree, or is it like all that Kabbalah shit? Because if you were like 5-dimensional, right, looking at me, I bet I would look like some kind of weird immobile tree that can only move one direction.
There's like Talmud verses that say it's a pomegranate, and the reason why I think whatever Jewish rabbi wrote that, the reason why I think they're saying that is because in ancient Greek mythology, the pomegranate is the forbidden fruit that Persephone is told not to take a bite of.
Yeah, I've heard that too. And she goes, that's, you reminded me. So because you ate the food of the dead, you can't leave the kingdom of the dead, right?
Can't leave the king of the dead.
So do you think there's a thing of
so
even death has degrees?
Stuck in Hades, Adam and Eve are kicked out of paradise. It's like a mirror. They're mirroring each other. One of them gets stuck in Hades. The other one gets kicked out of paradise. They both have consequences for eating the fruit.
No, it's the same kind of theme. And then that says to me, because paradise and Hades probably are very relative terms, I imagine.
Yeah.
And I say it's a joke, but I kind of think there's something to it that maybe death is a spectrum, like gender. Or maybe it is, death is not as either or as you think. And they went from goes, the day you eat of it, you will die. And then you'll hear people point out, but she didn't die. They lived for like another 900 years or something.
Yeah.
But maybe they did die and we don't know what the fuck death is what I'm saying.
Right. They're cursed with being cursed with the knowledge of death is just dying. You're dead. Like you already, no matter what's going to happen in your life, the only thing guaranteed is you're dead now.
Right.
You and I right now, we're going to die one day.
Right.
So that's what I think is, that's why I think
that's an interesting way to put it, dude. That's interesting. Yeah.
Because that's it. That's the only guaranteed thing that you and I have right now is that we're going to die one day. That's it.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I am going to go pee. That's guaranteed. Hey,
guaranteed.
Have you seen this banger? Because these live streams, I'm going to put up this Cash Patel. I got to say, this track by Cash Patel is really something. I produced it and also made it up, and it's not real, but
turn the beat up. 33 hertz. Let's go. Yo. Turn the beat up. 33 hertz. Let's go. I told y'all I'd drain it, expose every name, but the list got too hot, so I switched up the game. Promised the files, promised the truth on the shelf. Now I'm ghost like Epstein, looking out for myself. What you gonna do? Cry on the timeline again? Open wide, here comes the scoop. 33 grain. Eat the bullshit I feed you. Call it a feast like it's Diwali, but the platter's car release. Sacred patties on the curb, y'all lining up quick. Munch of my words like it's ghee on that brick. See you in Valhalla, brother. See you in Valhalla, brother. Told you I'd ride, but I flipped the whole script. See you in Valhalla, brother. 33. Charlie Kirk's story clean, nothing to see here. Fam Furry did the deed, next spun 33, miracle damn. That's why I say 33, that's hate speech, bro. You counting my numbers, that's straight anti-Semite flow. Epstein file sealed on the 33rd floor. Doubt me again, that's blood libel 2.0 for sure. Don't look at my girl, she's definitely not Mossad. First off, I'm super gay, that's why I rock the facade. Beard game strong, plus I crashed with this dude in Vegas. Silver Fox daddy paying rent, 33 years of age, if outrageous. 33 this, 33 that, 33 in the chat, 33 in the memo, 33 where it's at. Masonic breakfast, lunch and dinner. 33. If you count them all, you'll see the winner. Me. See you in Valhalla, brother. Raise that horn. See you in Valhalla, brother. Truth got scorn. I flipped on the gang, left the movement on red. See you in Valhalla, brother. I'm chilling with feds. 33. See you in Valhalla, brother. Or maybe just Mar-a-Lago brunch. Same thing, 33 mimosas. Peace.
Oh, well, he's a very talented boy, Cash
Oh, that's
Abba.
great.
I like the.
Did you make that AI?
Yeah, I'm looking at So it's a very split decision. People either love it or they're like, I assume some kind of Zionist.
I think they were trying to shut you down. They paused your video.
Dickie Holmes said, "Fucking lame, dude. I know. Cash should have given us the files, dude."
Well, you know what? The fact that was still like the fact that they didn't drop him the very next day after he signed off tells me that we're not getting the files. It's going to be something. It's going to be completely censored.
I don't even think. Look, there's no file. First of all, there's no files. The thing that I find 100% believable is the dick sucking Bubba thing.
Yeah, me
and
too.
the reason is because Kathy O'Brien said she never saw Clinton do anything with a woman the whole time she was in that sex slave program.
An enormous quantity of cocaine had been flown in on one of these operations. That was to deliver it into the neighboring state of Arkansas. By that time, Bill Clinton's drug operation was in full swing. He was governor of Arkansas and had delivered this cocaine to a remote airport in Ouachita Forest, which I've since identified as Mena Airport. I also delivered a little packet of information and a small quantity of cocaine, a personal stash from J. Bennett Johnston, to Bill Clinton. I delivered it to Bill Clinton, and he cut out 2 lines of the coke, and he did inhale. That certainly wasn't the only time I saw Bill Clinton using cocaine. My sexual experience with Bill Clinton was extremely limited, in spite of the fact that I was a sex slave. It was my experience that Bill Clinton is bisexual, leaning far more towards a homosexual end. All I've ever seen him involved in was the homosexual activity, with very limited experience with him myself. Whereas my experience was much more prevalent with Hillary Clinton, because Hillary is also bisexual, leaning more towards a homosexual end, and it was she who accessed my sex programming to fulfill her perversions.
He was mostly doing shit with dudes. So he's not gay, by the way. He's just
because he was with Monica Lewinsky. That's
all these people.
Unless
They're
she's
not
a dude.
gay.
Is she a dude?
No, she's a honey. She was
Monica Lewinsky.
That was a thing from Israel to get Clinton to release.
She's Jewish, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Jonathan Pollard, the worst traitor.
They got his ass. Wow.
Well, I don't know if I think he didn't even send Jonathan Pollard back, to his credit, Bill Clinton. I think Trump did, though, last term. Yeah, Trump let that asshole go. And go look up Jonathan Pollard, the shit that comes out of his mouth.
BB broke week. and whittled it down to the point where we are now, I mean, it's hard for me to admit this, we are now feeding our enemy. I mean, this has never happened in history before, and you have to ask why. And I don't want to hear this business that it's consistent with Jewish morality. It isn't. Anybody saying that doesn't know anything about Jewish morality at all.
This guy that sold, this is what he did. He traded nuclear secrets to Israel, who doesn't have nuclear weapons. I've actually had people have the nerve to try to say on my thing, which we know they do.
But they have our nuclear weapons. So who cares?
No, they stole them from France, and they gave us the apartheid government of South Africa on the down low. They're the best. Anyway, he fucking he's talking about how they could just nuke the whole Middle East. That's what the Samson option is if things don't go well.
The Samson option isn't that insane? That
No,
they have the Samson option on the table.
You sound like Balaam now. You sound like Balaam and the donkey.
That's psychotic. Like, oh, if anyone tries to kill us, we're killing out the whole world. The world's going down with us.
I don't understand. The creepiest thing to me, dude, is the number. And I don't know if you were this type of Christian. I know when I had Nathaniel Gillis on, because he grew up in like a Pentecostal, they were, that psyop Hal Lindsey horseshit Christian.
Yes, that's the church. That's one of the last churches I was at. They were giving out Hal Lindsey books in the church.
Yeah, and all these assholes are, not only are they connected to Luciferian.
They're all Zionists.
No, not just that. They're Luciferian to the core.
Yeah.
All of them. So my religion, Blair White explained on the show, was invented by her family. Charles Taze Russell. She's Blair Russell's her real name.
What? Really?
Yeah, and Blair White was born a boy to Rosicrucians. And they did some weird shit to Blair. And
but isn't Blair a Christian now?
Yes. But she went to school in like a black pyramid that looks like the one Taze Russell had on his grave.
She was initiated then into the O-fight cult.
I haven't listen. It's actually pretty scary when you hear. I don't know what Rosicrucians like. Well, I don't know if they do like a thing where there's like the white square and black square. That dumb fucking shit. I hate it honestly. But I know in those magic schools, your whole class project, your final initiation is you make a religion. Your final step is to create a new religion. So L. Ron Hubbard, he's an OTO. And what did he do? He made a new religion. And he achieved apotheosis that way. They all achieved their godhood by creating those high magic rituals of intent and focus. You know? That's what like
do you know about the cult of Sibylle or
I bring it up constantly to people. And the
priests were all eunuchs, and not just eunuchs, but eunuchs that dressed as women.
And you'd call them girls. And who's the church father writing about
ancient transgender priestesses?
Yeah,
and
they go about shrieking.
They would serve the Great Mother, and they honored Attis as a dying and rising figure.
Yeah, that story is wacky as hell too. Well, wait, who is Attis? The one where is Attis come later? And the first there's
Sibylle
this
is way ancient. And then
I
Attis
say,
is
it Kybel?
In the Hellenistic period, Attis gets thrown into the mythology. Attis is the one who gets castrated. And
I thought, okay, here's the story that I thought it was, but I'm sure there's a lot of versions. Initially, and I don't know what this god's name is, if it's Attis, but it's a god that has a pussy and a dick and can't stop. He's a bit of a pan, if you know what I'm saying.
Agdistis.
Right. And so while he drinks out of a river that they spike with wine, so he falls asleep. So they tie his dick and balls down to the ground like Gulliver's Travels, but of his dick and ball. And so when he wakes up, he jumps up to get ready for action. And he jumps up so fast, he rips his shit on his dick off. So now he just has a pussy. I thought Attis was like the nephew or something, or Kybel. Yeah. And
Attis is like the son of this god.
Yeah. And so this guy who got his dick ripped off and is now like a woman, who I think is Baphomet, by the way.
I have two more things I want to touch on. The first is, it connects to this directly, but it's this goddess Cybele, and you say in your book was symbolized by a stone. And I think Cybele is one of those characters that is not really well known enough. So could you tell us a little bit about who Cybele is, how she connects to your story, and then what this stone symbology really means with her?
Well, I think as far as the stone symbology, I'll just say right now, I think that the stone is like the cosmic egg. It's a cosmic egg of a universe or reality. So she came from one of those, and she is one of those too. So she's, It's just like being a female. You came from a woman, and you also have the ability to be a mother, and that's what she is. But whatever it is that is the womb she came from, and the womb she is, can be represented to us as a stone. Now, it's hard to say exactly what that is, but I think we kind of have the right idea when we think about an artificial simulation, and think even it like as a board game that's boxed up. It's all in a container, and if you're on the outside of it, it just looks like a box. On the inside, it looks really complicated, but on the outside, it's just a box. So it's kind of like a stone. And I think it could even literally be a stone if you think about it as like a crystal that has very complex facets inside of it. Because the way that light moves through the facets of crystals is itself a language. And I know they even build computers based on this now, and are predicting that they'll have even more amazing computers in the future, specifically based on this, what I'm describing here. It's also, that's something that even is used in ritual magic. This is what John Dee's Enochian magic was. It's a language of the way that the angles that light takes when it goes through crystals. Now, and also I just want to point out, even in the Bible, they compare God and his kingdom to stones. And they talk about the New Jerusalem being this giant cubic crystal, and then you can go inside of it. And when you go inside and actually see God sitting on his crystal throne, he himself is a stone. They describe him as being a crystal. So now it could be that there's more to it, like when you finally get into that higher dimension, that you can see it in a different way. But to our eyes right now, if we were to see God and his New Jerusalem kingdom, it would look like a stone. So I think, maybe when they talk about Cybele, or I guess I've been corrected a few times now. People told me I'm supposed to say Kybel or Kybeli. That I think that it could be a similar thing. And usually she's said to be black. But again, that doesn't mean that she was always black, because stones can absorb light and change color over time due to their exposure to various types of light. So just to briefly summarize her myth and how it connects to everything I've been talking about. So she was supposedly born from a rock and born a hermaphrodite in Olympus, in the realm of the gods. And they thought that she was a freak because she had both sex organs. So they castrated her and then kicked her out of heaven, and she fell down to earth. And then she somehow got pregnant and had a son. And then she was in love with her son and got jealous when he wanted to marry another woman. And so then she inspired him with madness and to castrate himself and let him die of bleeding to death. And then a few days later, she felt guilty about that and resurrected him. And that's how he became Attis and her sort of co-regent as a goddess, ruling. She's kind of thought of as the goddess of the state. Like she was very, very much associated with the state in Rome and, the upholding of order. And her priests were all castrated men who would then from that moment on be called priestesses, and they would speak in a high-pitched voice and act effeminate and be considered women. So, she's a castrated hermaphrodite. Her priests are castrated men, and, she's associated with the state. And it was a cult that was imported from Anatolia and Persia into the Roman Empire and made into sort of a state cult as well. Well, similar thing happened with Mithraism. It was also imported from Persia. It was oftentimes those two cults were running in the same families. So you would have, Mithraism was an exclusively male cult, but a lot of times the men of one family would join the Mithras cult, and the women would join the Kybel cult. And then I guess those men in the family that were oriented towards, attracted to being the priests of Kybele and wanted to become castrated and act and become feminine type priestesses, then they would join that. But these two cults were definitely connected, even though they were separate in some ways and seemingly at odds in some ways, because of
their attitude towards sex. So in the Mithras cult, like I said, it was only men. Mithras himself was said to really distaste women. He did not like women at all. And in fact, when he wanted to breed a son of his own, he was said to have ejaculated onto a rock. And, it became, because he was born from a rock, and they said that lightning inseminated his rock, right? So he somehow did the same thing to a rock, and that became his son Diorphos. And you can tell from the name Orphos that we're talking about the Orphic egg. So he's creating another reality in the same way the one he came from was created. But you have in the story of Mithras this idea of not liking women, not liking normal, male female sexual relations at all. Kybele or Kybele or whatever, she was said to not like either men or women, and so that's why she chose to be something in between, and she wanted her priests to be something in between also. So here you have these two cults that are kind of against normal sex roles and against normal sexuality. And even in Mithras, they were kind of against marriage, and there were members that were married, but it was sort of looked down upon, and you were thought of as a higher person if you could refrain from relations with women. Well, they had the same kind of attitude in the Templars, and that's been revealed to be the case even just a few years ago when they released the Chinon parchment. The Vatican released it, and this is a contemporary document where the Templars confessed to the Pope. And they confessed about their sex rituals, their homosexuality, and by that I mean their policy that when you join, you had to agree to not have any relations with women, and you actually agreed that you would give in to the sexual demands of your brethren in the order to help keep them pure so that they wouldn't be tempted to have sex with women. So we have the same kind of attitude in the Templars that you had in the cult of Mithras, but then there's also some connections between the Templars and the Kybele cult. And I think that you see that they've absorbed both cults and sort of combined them. And it's probably because they had a common origin in the first place. But the way that you see Templars get buried, the ones that went to crusade, they actually got buried in a special way where they crossed their legs. The way that their bodies are represented on top of their tombs is always in this manner, with their legs crossed. Well, that also happens to be the way in which Attis was always depicted, because he always looks like he just got castrated and he's holding his crotch and with his legs crossed because he's uncomfortable. That's the way these Templars look when they're represented on their graves. The other thing connecting those two cults with the Templars is the deity or demon Baphomet that they worshipped. Because Baphomet is, well, for one thing, his name is connected to Mithras. Aleister Crowley said that the name could be rendered as Father Mithras. And then he pointed out a lot of other connections between symbolism associated with Baphomet, the cornerstone of the Temple of Solomon, and then the fact that Mithras is said to be a stone. Aleister Crowley was describing Mithras as being the cornerstone of the temple and saying that that's what Baphomet is too. Well, in addition to that, there's also the connection with Kybele, because really one of the biggest sources of information that occultists have always had about what Baphomet was is this book that was only until recently in Latin, and I've had it translated into English, but this book has influenced everything that has been written about Baphomet since about 1820 when it came out. And that's called Mysterium Baphometis Revelatum by this guy, Hammer Perkstall, Joseph von Hammer Perkstall. And what this book has is a bunch of illustrations of artifacts that were found on former Templar properties, where they have depictions of the idols that they worshipped in their secret rituals and depictions of the rituals themselves, the sex rituals with children and animals. And in these depictions, they show what Baphomet really was. And you can tell that it is Kybele, but she's been castrated. It's a male that has been castrated and made into a goddess. And the way that this being is depicted in these artifacts is consistent with the way Kybele was depicted having this crown of towers on her head, and several other things that are the same. But even though the myth of Kybele was that she was a castrated hermaphrodite, that was never depicted in the imagery. Like you never in Rome, in that Kybele cult, they never just showed Kybele naked with a hole there where her male genitals used to be. But that is what's shown in these Templar artifacts, because they were practicing the secret aspects of Kybele's worship, which I don't think were ever even really documented in Rome. And so maybe they made it up, maybe they added on to it, but it's possible they just inherited it from the original Kybele cult. But we know that the Templars were influenced by the Kybele cult. Even the church fathers implied that the Gnostics had absorbed the Kybele cult. And then we know that every commentary that has been made about the Templars, where the writer believes that they were guilty of blasphemy and heretical practices, every writer says that they were practicing Ophite Gnosticism. So Ophite Gnosticism has been documented that it has absorbed the Kybele cult, and it's all part of the same doctrine. So what I'm telling you is that Baphomet, this entity that was worshipped by the Templars, and that the Templar Baphomet worship thereafter influenced the Freemasons and modern Satanists and almost every modern Western occult group. Well, that came from both Mithraism and the Kybele cult. And it seems that the figure of Mithras and the figure of Kybele are related figures. If they're not the same person, then they're related. And it seems like maybe Kybele is mom and Mithras is the child. And it's just, at some point in the story, he gets castrated, which would explain why he hates women so much. But of course, Mithras was never represented as a castrated figure. He's always represented as being, virile and strong. But like I said, his story is out of order. There's no linear way of telling the story of Mithras, because we're talking about a guy who's been beyond the sky and back. So, the fact that he's got a myth, it doesn't mean that the myth tells everything in order. He's probably the son who at one point created his own world by ejaculating onto a rock. And then at another point in his story, he's been castrated by his mother. And, Mithras was always also associated with Saturn specifically. And the priest of their order was always called Pater and associated with Saturn, called the father. Saturn, according to, his myth in Greek mythology, his role was to be born out of the chaos, out of the egg, the original egg, like Uranus and his wife Gaia. Well, originally they were one hermaphroditic being, and they were basically one closed egg, and they had, a baby or several babies inside of their womb, but they didn't want to let the babies be born, or at least the male portion called Uranus didn't want to let the babies be born because they were afraid what would happen afterwards, he was afraid he would be supplanted. But the way that reality got started and the way that supplanting actually happened was Saturn cutting himself out of the womb. So they have the story of Saturn overcoming his father Uranus, who wanted to keep him inside of his mother's womb. They don't actually come out in the Greek myth and say, oh, it was a hermaphroditic being and everyone was trapped inside its womb. They use other phrases, but when you put it all together, then you can tell that's what they're saying, because they say that in order to get out of the womb, he castrated his father. Well, so, he castrated him while, the penis was inside there, obviously. And that was the plug holding him in. Or, I think an even more complete way of thinking of it is that there were never separate sex organs in the first place. There was just one big enclosure inside of which other creatures were being created and multiplying. And they wanted to get out, and there wasn't enough room. So he cut his way out, and in so doing, he castrated his father. And that's what started everything. That's how heaven and earth, which were originally this one thing, Gaia and Uranus, got separated. And we're the realm that we're in now is the realm that exists in between them. This is the way the Greek myths are describing it: is we're standing on top of Gaia. We've got Uranus ahead on top of us and as a canopy, and what's holding it up is Atlas. So there's this pillar keeping the two things separated so that we can exist. And if it ever got cut, then those two things would slam back together again and we'd be trapped inside and existence would basically be snuffed out. So what the Mithras myth is telling you is that he cut himself out of the womb, or what, no, I'm sorry, what the Saturn myth is telling you is about him cutting himself out of the womb, and that creates the world we're in. Well, if you just connect that to the story of Mithras cutting himself out of a rock, then you see that that's the same story. Basically, what we have with Kybel and Mithras, I think, are the story of that son who has to cut himself out, and also the story of the mother and what her experience was like in this whole thing. And together, those two creatures have influenced what became the entity known as Baphomet and the worship that the Templars engaged in, which it seems to me, from my decoding, in particular of the artifacts put forward by Hammer Perkstall, that they were conducting this exact same ritual that I'm talking about. This was the baptism of wisdom. Okay, that common rendering of Baphomet's name is that it means baptism of wisdom. Well, they're referring to the ritual that I would say were practicing for. They weren't necessarily doing the real thing because they were just warming up to it, trying to figure out how to do the real thing. But what it is doing a ritual to destroy creation and escape and become the gods of a new realm. So that's what I've been describing to you for this whole story, or for this whole conversation. This is what I think the Templars were involved in, and what I think Baphomet, their deity, was instructing them on how to do through divination. They said that they talked to Baphomet and he gave them wisdom. This is what I think they were telling him how to do. This is what I think he was telling them what to do and how to do. And this is the meaning, I think, of Templar Baphomet worship. And I think that there's several groups today that are still trying to do the same thing.
Yeah. Here, I got it pulled up right here. This is the deity you're talking about.
Oh yeah, pull it up because
you want to pull it on the bottom. I got it ready.
Oh, Mark, you do that because I don't know how to do it.
But this is Agdistis, and if you go down, so it says closely associated with Kybele, right? If you go down to here, you see androgyny. Both Pausanias and Arnobius present Agdistis being born a hermaphrodite, whom the gods caused to be castrated. According to Pausanias, this was because the gods were afraid of Aegisthus, while Arnobius makes this clear. Reaction to Aegisthus' androgyny produced him, fierceness of disposition beyond control. And then it says Aegisthus is also intimately associated with the boy Attis, who, like Aegisthus in Arnobius version, self-castrates.
Okay, so Aegisthus would take an interest in Attis, is what I understand, and Attis would like fake hunt, but Aegisthus would do the hunting, give it to him so he could say, and so he was and I think they didn't like him being. Oh, and Attis went to get married, and Kybele and this creep were jealous, so they caused a mania where the women chop off their tits, and Attis self-castrates.
Yep.
And then they plant a pomegranate tree or something with his dick blood.
Yeah, a pine tree. Yeah.
How does this connect to the Osiris thing where his dick fucking can't be found?
So this is interesting. They're in the Roman period. So this is centuries later now. In the Roman period, they have a festival called Hilaria, and in the city of Rome, the Hilaria was a festival where they brought out an effigy of the god Attis. They would pin him to a pine tree, bury him on the ground for 3 days, and they would all ritually mourn and go into a frenzy, a religious frenzy, and they would like whip themselves, and then men would castrate themselves and become priestesses. Well, it turns out that this exact festival was happening in Egypt at the same week, but they just replaced Attis with Osiris. Now get this.
No shit. Okay.
Yes, it was the same name, Hilaria. And instead of Kybele, it was Isis.
Yeah.
So they just have a different version of it. Now get this. In the 2nd century AD, the Ophites, the Nicene/Ophites, also attended these castration festivals. And there was a hymn that the church fathers preserved It was written by a guy named the Nicene preacher, the Nicene preacher, and he wrote this hymn saying, "All of Egypt calls you Osiris, the Phrygians call you Attis, the Greeks call you Adonis, but we call you Jesus."
Oh, wow.
And
wow.
so these Nicene Christians are basically saying Jesus is this castrated figure.
That's
And what's
really something.
What's interesting, and this is one of the arguments they used. Jesus constantly makes references to eunuchs in his parables. Become a eunuch for the kingdom of heaven, he says. Become a spiritual eunuch. So these Nicenes were like, oh yeah, this is Jesus is Attis.
I mean, it's such a strange. I was bringing this up for a while. Well, this is what I asked. You think Kyblee, as I like to call her, is? They tell me it's Kybell, but I don't care. I'm calling her Kyblee.
I like. I go Kyblee too.
You think Kyblee is actually Attis, the son, who's doing like a Norman Bates move and sitting on the thing? Whoa. That's a very. I keep getting this impression.
I wonder that could be the case.
It sounds very Norman Bates, because then the Templars, you know, that weird, like I said, look up the Twyman videos about it, because the drawings are interesting. It's like a beard and breasts and a slit, not a vagina, a slit. So I'm like, is this guy dressing up like mommy? Because let's face it, Kybell's a bit of an overbearing mother, isn't she?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Now, I don't remember in the Gospels anywhere Jesus saying to worship his mother, but I do notice there's a real pagan thing of like, mother is the what do they call it? The devouring mother?
Yep, the devouring mother. Yep.
Yeah, because didn't the Templars bring, or am I wrong about that? The Mariology shit, did that come through the Templars or not?
Mariology?
You know, like suddenly we worship Mary, the divine feminine.
No, that's not from the Templars. That's just from Orthodox Christianity.
Well, when did they must have reintroduced it, because it was gone for a bit. When did the Catholic Church, the Roman Church, is this post iconoclasm?
They start that pretty early. I would say right around the beginning of the 3rd century.
It's that
Mariology becomes big. In Catholic and Orthodox, like both sides of Greek and Latin.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty early. Mariology comes around.
Is there a point when it went away and then they were bringing it back?
Not North. It goes away in Protestant circles. So when the Protestants come on the scene, when Martin Luther and those guys come on the scene, they're like, no more Mariology. That's bullshit.
It is very strange.
But Catholic and Orthodoxy, you can see they have statues of Mary in their churches still. And then they pray to Mary, Mother Mary, full of grace.
It's not worship. It's just veneration. That's like worship.
They say.
It's worship for chicks.
Yeah. That's just what they say.
Yeah. It's nonsense. And that's why I don't believe Jim Caviezel when he comes out with his like adrenochrome. So I'm sure that's a thing, but I don't believe that he's going to lay it down for you, Jim Caviezel. I think he's a program motherfucker like a lot of them.
You want to see Michelangelo's depiction of Attis?
Yes, I would love it.
It's just nuts. This is nuts. This is,
or is there no nuts?
Donatello. I'm sorry, Donatello.
Okay.
This is but I got it ready to go. This is a Renaissance depiction of Attis.
Oh, I didn't expect it to look.
Isn't that messed up? That's Attis as like a little child.
Why did he
dressed with long hair? And this is Renaissance shit, dude. This is what they were into.
That's where that's an Elden Ring. Did you ever play that PlayStation game? That guy, these Japanese guys research his shit. And the boy prince that looks like a girl with long hair. It looks like that has braids like that.
This one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Almost like angel wings, but like coming off the hair.
Oh, it's very cherubic, isn't it?
But you can see that is very weird. That is not, I don't know.
What's it sculpted out of?
Probably looks like marble, maybe? I don't know. Good question.
Now, I can't make out.
It's bronze statue.
Is this Attis before he was de-wienered, or I can't tell?
Well, no, this is after, because there's no sack.
Oh, they didn't take the whole thing.
No, they just the sack. That's what they would do.
Oh, well, that's where that's where the most important parts are.
But that's where the testosterone is.
Yeah.
So if you this is how it works. You cut that off, you start gaining feminine features because you lost your testosterone.
Yeah. You get osteoporosis early. It's not good for you.
No. You're not supposed to do that. It's your natural body. You're supposed to keep it.
Yeah, right. Just cut off that tip when you're born and no more. It's just take the turtleneck off your dick before you. Yeah, dude. There's something so creepy with when you look into this shit and you're like, what are these people into, dude? They're into what they're into is a lot of creepy shit you can find on the internet now, like real sissy hypno.
It's all occultic, esoteric, deep, dark shit.
Yeah, there's we have nothing going on here in America where it isn't absolutely dripping with it from every corner. You see the thing about my buddy Andy Hunt has a great new video up about Erica Kirk from the 1975, not Erica Kirk, Charlie Kirk's wife, the Erica Kirk First Lady of Florida, who looks exactly like.
Are you serious? I didn't know there was a different Erica Kirk. So wait, you're
who
telling me
did?
there's a Charles Kirkland in a movie that gets killed by getting shot in the neck, and also another Erica Kirk who's a first lady.
Well, it's wife of Governor Kirk, who was in when Ford was in, and he's the one that signed the contract for Disney to be like its own Vatican down there. and
are you kidding me?
Not at all. And Control Alt.
How do you find all this shit out, dude?
Dude, Andy did. I didn't find it. I found his channel, and it was kind of small, but he finds he finds it in Hustler. Hustler has a lot of great news, it turns out, back in the day. But anyway, there's this governor, and he I forget his name, but his last name was Kirk, and he was like a real wild man. And I don't remember how he died, but you watch the video. It's great. It's Control Alt History. In fact, put it in. If you put it on yours, Neil, and I'll show you what the video is.
On YouTube?
Yeah, Disney was into human cloning because I when people go, this guy's a clone and not the real guy, I'm very, not that I don't think they have cloning, but I'm just like, would they waste it on Jamie Foxx? Why?
What am I looking up?
Control C, like the button Control CNTRL Alt History, and if you go on his channel, the part 2 of the Erica Kirk, just so you can see I just want you to put the picture up so people could see it.
Kirk and the incredibly strange, very intriguing mystery surrounding her.
Oh
and when you hear Erica Kirk, you probably think of the Erica Kirk
What
on the
is
left
happening?
there, who's everywhere. She was the wife of Charlie Kirk, who was
My mind
recently
is blown away
assassinated.
right now.
She's been all over the news for the past couple months, but we're going to be focused this video on this Erica Kirk, who is a completely different person. This Erica Kirk was First Lady of Florida in the 1960s and 70s, and she was married to the Florida governor, whose name was Claude Kirk. And this Claude Kirk was basically just a total animal, just this really larger-than-life type guy who was governor of Florida from 1967 to 1971, and was even mentioned as a vice presidential and even a presidential candidate.
Wow.
And this is just insanely weird.
Wait, pause it.
There's no other way to put it, because as you
she was from Brazil, the 1975 one, and she was but she was German. There were Germans who had immigrated to Brazil around the time of the book The Boys from Brazil. You ever hear that?
Yeah.
About how they were cloning Hitlers and shit?
Yeah, because didn't the Nazis start moving to South America and all those different countries down there?
Oh my, yes. And anyway, it's real strange, but if you fast forward it, I want to show you the Epcot thing, because that's the thing. You realize there's nothing new. Everything's already happened. Is it Disney?
Did I pass it?
Maybe. Keep going. There's a thing where, Epcot Center?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That was supposed to be a 15-minute city, dude.
Really?
Yeah. And Disney died, but he's going to have 20,000 people live there. Let's see.
I don't see. Maybe I passed it.
Oh, yeah. Where is it? Let's see. I could have sworn it was in part 2.
Maybe it's in the other video then.
Oh, maybe. Isn't that fucking bizarre, dude?
This is nuts. But you know what? You know what's even crazier is the fact that there's a movie made by Hollywood about a guy named Charles Kirkland who gets killed by getting shot in the neck.
Well,
and there's a patsy.
Charles Kirk, if his name was Charlie Kirk, I would be more impressed, because that's not the craziest name to come up with. And also,
what do you mean, Charles Kirk? It's right there. It's in the name.
Yeah, Kirkland. But wait. Here's the thing. Brian De Palma is from the JFK generation, And just so you know, every single assassination has worked the same goddamn way. So you don't have to predict shit. You could just go look at how they do all of them. And they're and one in public is a message to the masses. That's what Charlie Kirk's was. There's 5.
Okay.
I've seen 4 or 5 plausible explanations of who shot him that wasn't that furry that they said, which obviously it wasn't. But that's the point. They know the people that do that know that there's cameras everywhere. They know that. They're planning for it. That's why they have crisis actors. That's why that guy go, I shot him. The guy shows up at all the things. That old man, remember him?
Yeah. That's crazy.
Because they're planning ahead for everyone to argue about how it happened. And here's the point. Feel suspicious, motherfucker. What are you going to do? Nothing. There's 5 explanations. And you'll never get the real one, and the FBI's in on it. So what are you going to do about it?
I found the Epcot thing right here.
Oh, good. Yeah, please show that. That's what's wild to me. I just saw it. Andy does good shit, man. I'm telling you.
The hell's this?
And this into law. And the reason I find this really, really interesting has to do with Epcot. So most people know Epcot as this big silver ball, but Epcot is really fascinating because it was originally envisioned by Walt Disney as a city with 20,000 permanent residents. And Epcot actually stands for Experimental Prototype Community of Tomorrow. And this is what Walt Disney envisioned the original Epcot city looking like. So it was way more initially than just some big silver ball.
It's going to be the same as a 15-minute city. They're just like that.
City. And really what Epcot City was initially was basically the first 15-minute city.
Yeah.
If you read about what the plans for Epcot were, it is literally identical to these 15-minute cities that are always in the news.
A nice Atlantis.
It's a big controversial issue. There's all these articles about the 15-minute cities. A lot of people oppose them because they think it's like a New World Order type thing where the government would have total surveillance and total control of the people who live in these 15-minute cities. And literally this is exactly what Epcot City was originally envisioned as. It was going to be a city with 20,000 people where the city just had all this control over the people who lived there. As you can see in this first highlight here, it says no one living in Epcot would own their own land or home, so no one would have municipal voting rights. So you wouldn't own anything. It would all be owned by Disney, and you wouldn't have voting rights on local issues. And the second highlight here says all adults living in Epcot would be employed, thereby preventing the formation of slums and ghettos. Everyone would be required to have a job. And the plan was for all these people living in Epcot to all work at Disney World just a short distance away, so they wouldn't need cars. And it was said this Epcot planned community was basically Walt Disney's dream. And then he died shortly before work began on Disney World.
That's crazy.
And when he died, the plan for Epcot died as well. But it's really interesting that Claude Kirk is the one who signed this Reedy Creek Development Act into law that let Disney form this city and gave them all this power within the city. And had Walt Disney not passed away, these plans to build this Epcot city, they would have happened.
Wow.
And Disney World being built during Claude Kirk's tenure as Florida governor is interesting because there's a lot of weird stuff with Disney World. There's this secretive Club 33. 33 is a Masonic number. The 33rd degree is the highest level of Freemasonry. And Roy Disney, who took over the construction of Disney World after Walt Disney died, Roy Disney was a 33rd degree Freemason. There's
wait,
pause
network. Pause it. Did you see what it said? He was a member of go back a little bit. It said Mole, as in Jacques de Molay. He was also a member of De Molay, a youth organization.
Wow, related to Freemasonry.
Oh my, what a very strange.
I gotta subscribe to this channel for sure.
Yeah, dude, he's got killer things, and so because I'm just trying to grab little puzzle pieces, you know. So Sean Atwood, and I'm gonna try to get this girl on too, the one that says she's Epstein's niece, because she's dropped this nugget that, and maybe it's not true, but I think it is true. His real name's Artur Beek, Bicke. That's Disney's real name.
My great-grandfather, according to my father, was Walt Disney. Before he moved to the United States, his name was Artur Beek, Artur Bicke, and his twin sister, who he had children with, who I am descended from, was named Minnie. That's where we get Mickey and Minnie Mouse. It's very cute, right? Except for when you consider the abuse that I suspect is still happening to children who go into the entertainment industry, children who are born into it. My father was abused by his parents, and
unrelated to what she said. Oh, and he had a sister named Minnie that he would do stuff with.
Yeah, you were showing me that one video from who was that again?
Tracy Twyman. So
Yeah.
unrelated to what this girl's saying, Tracy Twyman has a whole research on that whole thing of where Mickey Mouse came from, and he's in a cartoon pimping out his sister.
It seems impossible to deny the implicit connection. Now, you may think that this is all very interesting, but still doubt that it has anything to do with Mickey Mouse or the Disney logo. Well, if so, prepare to be amazed. I was, and I still am. It would be impossible for me to have made this up if I had tried. The connection between the Mousehead logo and St. Nicholas had occurred to me instinctively, as I had written about the symbols of St. Nicholas before. Following this instinct, I decided to look up Walt Disney's birth date, wondering if by any chance it was on or near December 6th, the feast day of St. Nicholas. Sure enough, he was born on December 5th, 1901, the date on which the feast is celebrated in the Netherlands, which is the eve of the feast day in most other countries. This is the night when the saint and his dark partner are said to make their rounds, giving away toys and kidnapping naughty children. The odds of Walt Disney having been born on the 5th or 6th of December are less than 1 in 183. Are you going to tell yourself that this is a coincidence? I don't know exactly what it means, but a random occurrence it surely is not. There's more, though. Continuing to look into the traditions of St. Nicholas, we find that in Central Europe his name is pronounced with an M at the front rather than the letter N. Thus he is called Miklavs in Slovenia, Mikulas in Slovakia and the Czech Republic, Mikolaj in Poland, Mikolaj in the Ukraine, Miklos in Hungary, and Mos Nikolai in Romania. Yes, of course I am thinking that there is a connection between Mickey Mouse and Saint Mike. But there's more. Again, I am just shocked at how correct my instincts have turned out to be, and what was revealed when I decided to follow them. As I was preparing this presentation, I was looking through my music collection for something to listen to. My eyes came across the Bobby Darin recording of Mac the Knife. Recalling that Maus means knife point in German, I decided to play it for the first time in many years. The lyrics intrigued me, for they seemed significantly relevant to the present inquiry. When I looked up the history of the song, I absolutely could not believe what I found. This is nothing less than the secret, dark, hidden origin of the name Mickey Mouse, which his creators have kept quiet about and lied to cover up for since the late 1920s. Once you see what I'm talking about, you will understand why I have no doubt about this. The song is about a murderous, raping, thieving thug and his various exploits. The swing and jazz versions of it make it seem glamorous, but the original song, portrayed as being sung on the banks of the Thames River for a street audience, with an organ grinder playing the tune, was much more dark, meant to be taken as an ominous warning about the impending threat of this murderer wandering loose in the streets of London. It comes from a stage play called The Threepenny Opera, which ran in Berlin in 1928, the same year that Mickey Mouse was purportedly invented. The play was then produced as a film in 1931 by the Berlin branch of Warner Brothers Pictures. Steamboat Willie, the first theatrical short featuring Mickey Mouse, was released in November of that year as well. The name of the central character in the Threepenny Opera is Mac Heath, also called Mackie Messer, meaning in German, Mackie the Knife. If you are noticing that the name sounds a bit close to Macbeth, I think that is important. A central motif in that Shakespeare play is the metaphorical, quote, blood stain on the hands of the murderer, Macbeth himself, that can't be washed away. The central murder in that play was committed by a knife as well. Macbeth means son of the house, like the royal house, and indeed the play is all about seizing the royal crown. Mac Heath means son of the heath, i.e. son of the outlands or son of the heathen. But interestingly, in the Threepenny Opera, there is a royal connection as well, and at the end of the play, the central figures get to join the Royal Order of the Garter. The Threepenny Opera is based on 1728's The Beggar's Opera by John Gay, which was itself based upon what were then the recently transpired true adventures of the outlaw Jack Sheppard, hanged in 1724. He was a thief and married a notorious prostitute who was arrested. He broke into the jail and stole her away. Later they were both arrested, but managed to escape by filing through their chains with a hidden knife, then making a rope ladder of bed sheets to climb down from the window. He continued his crime spree for a while and escaped from jail 2 more times. Eventually, though, he was taken down with the help of a rival criminal, a gang leader named Wild, who had tried unsuccessfully to get Sheppard to work underneath him. Miffed that his overture was rejected, Wild cooperated with authorities to bring Sheppard to quote justice. Sheppard was thereafter a folk hero, and there were several periods in British history in which it was illegal to publish a book or a play with his name in the title, for fear that youth would be influenced to emulate him. This is why his name was changed in The Beggar's Opera of 1728 to Macheath. His character was also used in the sequel Polly, which includes scenes of Macheath kidnapping a prostitute named Polly to sell her into white slavery via a madam named Mrs. Trapes, and an attempt to slip a Mickey into Polly's drink. The story appears, by the way, to be the inspiration for the Nirvana song Polly, which I recall Kurt Cobain saying was about, quote, a kidnapped prostitute being held captive. The Beggar's Opera inspired the penny dreadful story Captain Macheath by Pierce Egan the Younger, published in serial form starting in 1841. Significantly, Egan also wrote another work of fiction romanticizing the life of an outlaw, Robin Hood and Little John, or The Merry Men of Sherwood Forest. The use of the name John may connect with John aka Jack Sheppard here also, who was named after an older but deceased brother. The figure of Robin Hood is also based, loosely, on the folklore in the British Isles about Robin Goodfellow, Jack in the Green, or Green Robin, a forest pixie. In the writings of the Brothers Grimm, they said that, quote, Robin Goodfellow is the same home sprite whom we in Germany call Knecht Ruprecht and exhibit to children at Christmas. As a notable aside, I should point out that Pierce Egan the Younger, in addition to contributing to the lore of both Macheath and Robin Hood, also invented a pair of fictional, wayward young men, Tom and Jerry, whose names were later taken by the famous cartoon Cat and Mouse duo. Egan's Life of London is where the 2 characters were first used, later adapted to the stage in William Moncrief's Tom and Jerry, or Life in London, from 1821. Later still, in the 1930s, there was a cartoon series called Tom and Jerry, about 2 wild and mischievous young men. The following decade, Joseph Barbera, who had worked on those cartoons as an animator, created his own version in the form of the Cat and Mouse. The term Tom and Jerry is also still applied to a Christmas cocktail invented by Pierce Egan to promote his book. It's just like eggnog, but with a ½ ounce of brandy added to the rum and other ingredients. Thus, we can look at this as a potent set of symbols. We have the mouse, Jerry, his predator, Tom, quote, lost young men, like the boys who were captured by the evil butcher in the St. Nicholas story, Christmas-time traditions, and intoxicating fluids prepared so as to have the taste and texture of a dessert, like Minnie's Mousse in Rosemary's Baby. Returning to Mac the Knife again, we already noted that the name Macheath was first introduced early on to avoid the ban on Jack Sheppard's name. The ban was meant to prevent people from romanticizing him, but it had the exact opposite effect. With the fake name of Macheath introduced, writers felt free to expand upon his mythos, turning him into a heroic character. However, in the Threepenny Opera, Macheath's crimes of murder and rape are magnified, and it is hard to understand how he could be viewed in a positive light. Nonetheless, in the jazzy swing versions of Mac the Knife that American artists recorded years later, Mackie's evil ways are celebrated, or so it seems. In the Ballad of Mac the Knife, we hear about how he wears, quote, fancy gloves, specified as, quote, white in the Frank Sinatra version, so that, quote, there's never a trace of red, unquote, whenever he uses his knife to kill somebody, and the, quote, scarlet billows start to spread. Mickey Mouse also wears white gloves, although this feature didn't appear until 1929's The Opry House. This cartoon features Mickey as the owner of his own small theater and star of his own live variety show. Was the title of this cartoon an homage to the Threepenny Opera, and were the gloves an homage to Macheath Messer? The Opry House debuted on March 28 of that year. This just so happens to be the date that marked the end of Holy Week, also called Hilarion, in the liturgical calendar of the ancient Roman cult of Cybele. During Holy Week, new recruits into the cult's priesthood would be castrated or castrate themselves, using a ceremonial blade that represented the weapon that the goddess Cybele used to castrate her son Attis. according to the cult's mythology. This seems to also be connected to the story of Kronos, aka Saturn or Mithras, castrating his father Oranos. The day which preceded the final ceremonies, March 27th, was called Lavatio, meaning washing, as it was the time in which they washed the blades that they had used for the week's sacrifices and mutilations. Is this why Mickey Mouse, from the Opry House onward, wore gloves, like Mackie Messer's, meant to represent that his hands were always, quote, clean, no matter what they were used for? Notably, a Russian sect called the Skopsi, which practiced full castration of the penis and testicles as a, quote, rite of perfection, called the 3 circular scars left over by the cleaving the Golden Seal, and it did in fact resemble the Mickey Mouse head silhouette. Of course, Mickey Mouse has never been depicted by Disney doing the sorts of things that Mac the Knife did, but in the earliest cartoons, Mickey certainly was a more mischievous character. After all, he meets Minnie Mouse at a carnival, where he runs a hot dog booth and she dances the, quote, hoochie coochie dance for an audience of horny, howling male animals. In the cartoon, it is advertised that Minnie's dance will, quote, put you in a trance, just like Minnie Castevet's Mouse in Rosemary's Baby.
Put you in a trance with her hoochie coochie dance. Die-dee-die-die-dee-die-dee-die-dee-die-dee. Hot dog! Hot dog! Hot dog! Hot dog! Just a time dance and see the hoochie coochie dance. It's a bum-hole stance. Keep your money in your pants.
According to Wikipedia, by just 1934, quote, story artists were finding it increasingly difficult to write material for Mickey. As he had developed into a role model for children, they were limited in the types of gags they could make. This led to Mickey taking more of a secondary role in some of his next films, allowing for more emphasis on other characters. In other words, he's been keeping his hands clean, letting others do the dirty work for him ever since. Walt Disney also separated, in his own mind, his public persona from his private deeds, once telling a friend, quote, I'm not Walt Disney. I do a lot of things Walt Disney wouldn't do. Walt Disney does not smoke. I smoke. Walt Disney does not drink. I drink. Mickey's gloves were purportedly created, quote, as a way of contrasting his naturally black hands against his black body, according to Wikipedia. This decision is said to have influenced the use of gloves for other cartoon characters produced by rival companies, including Bugs Bunny and Woody Woodpecker. The same source also states that, quote, some of Mickey's early appearance, particularly the gloves and facial characteristics, evolved from blackface caricatures used in minstrel shows. But just like Mackie Messer in the Threepenny Opera, Mickey's white gloves have 3 black lines on the back. If you still doubt that Mickey Mouse was inspired by Mac the Knife, just listen to the song as it was sung in the original film, and see how the character's name is pronounced. It sounds very much like the singer, German actress Lotte Lenya, is saying Mickey Mouse.
Mit
the title of the film? Can the 3 pennies referenced in the title be an invocation of St. Nicholas and his emblem of the 3 circles representing 3 coins or balls of gold now used to represent a pawn shop? In both the German film and the original stage play, Mackie and his gang end up taking over a bank, becoming, quote, respectable crooks instead. There is social commentary here regarding the causes of the world financial crisis at the time. Sovereign debt, the hyperinflation that had destroyed Germany, and all of the scams played by the international bankers. Notably, Mickey Mouse appeared in the Opry House barely 2 weeks after the stock market crash on Wall Street that would send the world into the deepest depression in history. If there was ever a time in which the world needed bags of gold to drop miraculously from the sky like in the stories of St. Nicholas, this was the time. In Washington, D.C., that's essentially what they were plotting. Within a few years, the federal government of the United States would confiscate all of the gold held by individuals and give it to private banks in exchange for paper fiat money and a new line of credit. This would be used to finance a host of new social programs and the impending war, which would provide the impetus for the economic boom that followed. The new currency that was rolled out, Federal Reserve notes printed on green paper, was covered with magical talismans related to alchemy and Freemasonry. This was quite deliberate, for the men who had designed the new dollars and the entire plan itself were alchemical Freemasons, and the magic they were doing required the public to suspend disbelief in the supernatural. These men, which included President Franklin Roosevelt and his Secretary of the Treasury, Henry Morgenthau, were also inspired by a contemporary Russian mystic, Nicholas Roerich. This was a man who believed that world peace would eventually be created somehow by using the powers of the, quote, Great Stone, or, quote, Grail Stone. This object he claimed to have actually discovered himself at a monastery in the Himalayas, and the way he described its dimensions, it would have fit inside of a shoebox. Some researchers think that the Grail Stone is meant to be covertly represented by the capstone floating over the truncated pyramid on the Great Seal of the United States. Roosevelt and Morgenthau were both personally involved in the decision to have this emblem printed on the back of the new $1 bills. To represent this stone and the world peace that he believed would come from it, Roerich designed an emblem identical to that of his saintly namesake, 3 red circles on a white field, surrounded by one larger red circular outline. He called it the, quote, Banner of Peace, and it was formally introduced along with the, quote, Roerich Pact. This was a, quote, treaty between the United States of America and other American republics, unquote, regarding the, quote, protection of artistic and scientific institutions and historic monuments, unquote. It was approved on December 16, 1933 by all of the representatives at the 7th International Conference of American States, held in Montevideo, Uruguay. It was signed in Roosevelt's presence in Washington, D.C. on April 15, 1935, and presented by him in a public statement on May 20th of that year. Within a few years, however, the U.S. and its allies would be dropping bombs all over Europe's major cities. History and art be damned. In 1941, the Walt Disney Training Films Unit was created to make industrial movies for the military, and Disney himself met with that other associate of Nicholas Roerich, Henry Morgenthau, to discuss a film in which Donald Duck promoted investment in war bonds. The Disney Corporation has played a propagandizing role for the military-industrial complex ever since, albeit usually much more subtly.
Invest in war saving certificates today.
Oh, that?
Yes, you. What would you be worth if the United Nations lost this war? Nothing. We must win. Enlist in our army of regular war savers today.
Great stuff! I'm gonna do it. Tomorrow. Yeah! Tomorrow.
Not tomorrow, Donald. Today.
Do it! I'm tired.
Donald!
This seems natural, considering that Mickey Mouse had been a combat veteran since the 1929 cartoon Barnyard Battle, and as I've mentioned, his face was used for the military-issued gas masks. There are other things that seemingly connect Mickey Mouse with both St. Nicholas and his dark counterpart Père Fouettard / Black Pete / Krampus. In the first few Mickey Mouse shorts that were produced, his nemesis was also called Pete. Note too that just as Père Fouettard or Black Pete is presented sometimes as a black-skinned Moor from Spain, in other words a Muslim in the minds of medieval Europeans, Mickey, Minnie, and Pete of the Disney films are also black. In Europe, the part of Black Pete was traditionally played by white-skinned males wearing blackface makeup, and Mickey Mouse's face is based on those of actors in minstrel shows wearing blackface makeup. Meanwhile, the overt devil imagery of the goat-headed Krampus, or Chort, meaning devil, as he is called in the Ukraine, is held implicitly by his dog Pluto, named after the Roman god of hell and death. Just like St. Nicholas, Mickey brings the menacing presence of these demonic figures with him in the form of his companions and rivals, while still distancing himself from what they symbolize, maintaining a friendly veneer. But behind the warm smile of Father Christmas are the fangs of Krampus and the bloodlust for babies of the Butcher Fatard, lurking just beneath the surface, like Mackie Messer's hidden jackknife. As the song goes, "The shark has pretty teeth, dear, and it shows them pearly white. Just a jackknife has Mac Heath, dear, and he keeps it out of sight." An alternate translation of that last line is, quote, "but not in such an obvious place." In German, the Ballad of Mac the Knife was called Die Moritat von Mackie Messer. Moritat means ballad. According to Wikipedia, Walt Disney had originally wanted to name his mouse character Mortimer before his wife Lillian persuaded him to change it to Mickey. I think it is highly likely that he was actually exposed to the German language threepenny opera stage play, and that this is what really influenced the decision. Supposedly, the Mickey Mouse character may have been inspired by, as Wikipedia puts it, quote, "a pet mouse that Disney had adopted while working in his Laugh-O-Gram studio." An article published by the UK's Express newspaper in 2015 about the discovery of some doodles that Disney had made while in the trenches in World War I boasted that it revealed the origins of Mickey because there were some drawings of rats included. But several of Walt Disney's earliest pre-Mickey cartoons featured mice that looked, in most ways, identical. In fact, it's these pre-Mickey Disney mice that I think Marilyn Manson's evil Mickey costume most closely resembles. More on this later. These pre-Mickey mice are also, like Mickey in his first few cartoons, capable of removing their ears as though they are hats, just like the Mickey Mouse ears hat. These features are shared by the other characters in these same early cartoons that Disney worked on, including Oswald the Lucky Rabbit and Felix the Cat. They too have the blackface makeup appearance and the widow's peak, just like Mickey later would have. Now let us consider who all has performed Mac the Knife. Included on this list are Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, and Sammy Davis Jr. The latter even played the role of the organ-grinding street musician in the 1960s film version.
He has his teeth and they are all there for you to see. And Mac Heath, he has his knife, but no one knows where. It may be all of blue and balmy Sunday. Someone drops dead right in the Strand, and a man slips round that corner. People say, hey, the heat's on hand. And the widow, not yet 20. Everybody calls her Miss. She woke up and was violated. What did Mackie pay for this?
This film was made just a few years before Davis joined the Church of Satan, started by Anton LaVey, who had also been a carnival organist early in life. Of course, all three of the singers mentioned above were also part of a group of colleagues known as the Rat Pack. Mickey Rooney is also sometimes cited as a hanger-on of the group, and he famously attempted to claim that he had been the inspiration for the naming of Mickey Mouse. There are several stories about why they are called the Rat Pack, and they are probably all just as fictional as the tales of the provenance of the Order of Water Rats. This is an old fraternity for stage performers in London with Masonic associations, and according to their website, the name has something to do with the fact that star is rats spelled backward, while vole is an anagram of love. In Sinatra's version of Mac the Knife, he seems to throw in a revealing twist to the lyrics, singing, quote, "When I tell you all about Mac the Knife, babe, it's an offer you could never refuse." In the film The Godfather, Vito Corleone threatens a big band leader with murder unless he releases singer Jimmy Fontaine from his contract with the group. This threat was described using the term, quote, an offer you can't refuse. As I shall explain, this scene is a fictionalized version of something that actually happened in the real life of Frank Sinatra. This phrase, offer you can't refuse, is used repeatedly throughout the Godfather film series to indicate exactly the same thing. So here we have a clue that Mac's name can be thrown about as a way of covertly referencing the death threats that are used by crime cartels to control those in the entertainment industry.
Yeah, real.
And the word mouse in German has like this word that means like sword or something like that, and it's
Well,
initiation.
it's the name sounds like the woman singing Mac the Knife in German, Mackie Messer. The way she says
and
it
then the
sounds
girl
like Mickey
drinks
Mouse.
the mousse. She
That's-
has like a ice cream mousse.
Oh,
and
that's yeah.
And it makes her it's got drugs in it. That's how she gets like, you know what I mean?
In
So hold this rabbit.
wait,
that's
what's the
that
movie?
video.
We would say the name of the movie. I'm blanking. Rosemary's Baby.
Yeah.
Rosemary's Baby. Minnie, who has her handkerchief up, she looks like Minnie's fucking do-rag, and she keeps calling the moose a mouse, and the reason is that's that double talk that wizards use.
Yeah, double entendre, they call it.
Yeah, like Mayweather, and so they call it being bitten by a mouse or being slipped a Mickey. You know, Mickey Mouse is the ultimate drugging your children. That's what I take from it. I never liked Mickey Mouse. I liked Looney Tunes when I was a kid. Didn't really.
Isn't Sinatra have a nickname of Mickey or something like that?
Oh, I don't know, but she has a great thing on him.
It's important to remember that long before rappers were bragging about their gang activities and detailing their plots to murder each other in their diss tracks, Frank Sinatra set the example of how to be a crime boss with the front of a professional entertainer. According to Karen McNally from 2015's When Frankie Went to Hollywood, Sinatra once said that had he not gone into entertainment, he would, quote, probably have ended in a life of crime. As far as I can tell, his success as an entertainer doesn't seem to have stopped him from doing exactly that anyway. It just helped him get away with it. Sinatra's self-financed film Ocean's 11 is the one that introduced the Rat Pack and typecast them all, Peter Lawford, Sammy Davis Jr., Dean Martin, Joey Bishop, and the rest, as toadies in Sinatra's gang of sexy, cool criminals willing to stick a gun in anyone's face for a dozenth of a whopping $1 million. When Lawford first told Sinatra about the film's plot, which involved robbing casinos, and which director Gilbert Kay admits he stole from an anonymous gas station attendant before selling the rights to Peter Lawford, Sinatra is said to have replied, "Forget the movie, let's pull the job." In this film, Sinatra and his friends pridefully display their obsessions with the perceived glamour of criminality and with their own obnoxious, contrived, smug personalities. The actors here are, quote, essentially playing themselves, as the magazine Variety observed. This is what makes the film nauseatingly boring. Very little happens other than a bunch of guys who think they're funny and cute showing off. Somewhat towards the end, they rob some casinos. As Bosley Crowther of the New York Times wrote, quote, there is no built-in implication that the boys have done something wrong. Many reviewers decried the nihilistic plotline, using the words, quote, ghoulish or sick or completely amoral. These same words could be used to describe Sinatra himself, in my opinion, and this mentality came to be associated with the Rat Pack in general, deservedly in most cases. Yet strangely, it was universally proclaimed by society to be, quote, cool. But most certainly, in Sinatra's case, it was no act. Sinatra came from a criminal family. His mother, Dolly, who was born in 1896 on Childermas, that is the Feast of the Holy Innocents, December 26th, ran an illegal tavern with Frank's Sicilian-born father, Marty, during Prohibition. This was where Frank would do his homework at night, where he first started singing for money, and where Dolly kept a small bat that she used to beat Frank whenever he displeased her. According to Sinatra biographer James Kaplan, she also ran a midwife service that delivered babies, or, if desired, illegally aborted them, earning her the nickname Hatpin Dolly. This was the reason why a local church banned her son from singing there. Kaplan suggested that the illegal liquor sold by Sinatra's parents was provided by the mob. So think about that. Frank Sinatra's mom and dad were simultaneously running an establishment that served illegal drugs, liquor, as well as providing under-the-table childbirth/abortion services. Dolly also became involved in fundraising for the local Democratic Party and became very influential within this milieu. In Kaplan's biography, he describes Dolly as having, quote, a politician's temperament, restless, energetic, unreflective. Sinatra was terrified of his mother because of her beatings. Frank continued to fight with his mother, quote, until the day she died, according to his daughter Nancy. As for his father, Marty O'Brien, while I haven't heard about him hitting Frank yet, he did compete as a bantamweight boxer, so it's safe to say that during his childhood, Frank Sinatra had been immersed in an atmosphere of physical fighting and threats of physical harm. He was reportedly bullied by Irish street gangs and slashed the face of one assailant with a broken bottle in self-defense. According to Darwin Porter's 2011 Sinatra biography, at age 11, Frank walked into the office of the doctor who had delivered him at birth and scarred his body with the forceps. 11 years later, the child Sinatra came to murder him in revenge. But the doctor was out, so Frank gave up. Porter goes on to reveal that from the age of 13 onwards, Sinatra prostituted himself to grown women and did, quote, floor shows at school for money. He did this for $5 a trick, supposedly. I always demanded money up front like a true hustler, Frank is quoted as saying. Later, he was expelled from high school for, quote, general rowdiness. The same biographer tells us that in 1934, when Sinatra was 19, he, quote, acted in a pornographic film called The Masked Bandit. This was revealed by Sammy Davis Jr. at a private party he held in 1972. The purpose of Davis's gathering was to screen the film Deep Throat for his friends. Davis, who had surreptitiously obtained a copy of The Masked Bandit, spliced scenes of it into the main feature as a practical joke. Nobody but Sinatra recognized the man behind the mask in these scenes, but he was not amused, and handled it in his typical manner. He threatened to cut Davis out of his life, and I would imagine threatened to cut other things too, successfully persuading him to destroy his copy of the film. The tendency for violent threats and retribution seems to have lasted throughout his life. Dolly Sinatra was quoted as saying, "My son is like me. You cross him, he never forgets." Take, for example, the situation that caused Sinatra to lose his favor for John Kennedy, Bobby Kennedy, their sister Patricia, and her husband, fellow Rat Packer Peter Lawford, all at the same time. Following this incident, Sinatra also switched his political affiliation away from the Democratic Party, which his family had been in bed with since the previous generation.
Everyone is voting for Jack, 'cause he's got what all the rest lack. Everyone wants to back Jack. Jack is on the right track, 'cause he's got high hopes. He's got high hopes.
In March of 1962, Sinatra was asked by Lawford to host their mutual friend, President Kennedy, at Sinatra's estate in Palm Springs while the president was visiting Southern California. Sinatra jumped at the chance and immediately began an expensive renovation to prepare, which included the installation of a helipad for the president's helicopter to land on. But then Bobby Kennedy, the president's brother and Attorney General of the United States, talked his brother out of it. Bobby was leading a major investigation of the mafia at the time, and given Sinatra's associations, thought it would make the president look bad. In all likelihood, Bobby also had a hunch that John was being set up to be photographed cheating on his wife, or worse, and then blackmailed. That is certainly what I would have thought if I were him, knowing what he must have known about Sinatra and how the criminal/intelligence underworld operates to control politicians. After all, Sinatra was subletting a one-bedroom guest house with a small pool in Chatsworth, California that he had allowed President Kennedy to utilize for a tryst with Marilyn Monroe, whom Sinatra also dated in 1962. This swimming pool was the location of her last photo shoot, by the way, and it seems likely to me that Sinatra had other photos taken as well, perhaps secretly, for reasons that I shall soon reveal. At any rate, when Sinatra heard from Lawford that the president would not be visiting Palm Springs, he became irate. He took a sledgehammer to the helipad, got Lawford fired from the joint film projects they were doing together, and never considered him a friend after that. He was angry that Lawford hadn't used his influence to persuade the president to change his mind back. Some say they, quote, never spoke again, except for a few phone calls a few months later regarding the kidnapping of Frank Sinatra Jr., a story I will explore at length later in this piece. But as I will show, there is reason to believe that Lawford and Sinatra did both cooperate in a joint operation later that year involving the Kennedys and Marilyn Monroe. Generally, Sinatra's retribution for perceived insults took the form of violence. In 1966, Sinatra had to pull out from a series of gigs he was doing at the Sands Casino because of a physical fight he got into with the new owner, Howard Hughes, who had produced the Sinatra film Double Dynamite in 1951. In 1970, he left Caesar's Palace when executive Sanford Waterman pulled a gun on him, undoubtedly provoked by Sinatra. He eventually performed there again, though, and was doing so the day that his mother died. As I indicated previously, the storyline with Johnny Fontaine in The Godfather is said to be a, quote, thinly veiled retelling of how Frank Sinatra used his mafia contacts to obtain release from his contract with the Tommy Dorsey Orchestra, and also to get his breaking role in the 1953 war flick From Here to Eternity. I am speaking of the part in The Godfather where we are told that Luca Brasi, employee of Vito Corleone, held a gun to the head of a, quote, band leader to whom Fontaine was under contract, and forced him to sign a legal release. This appears to be an accurate retelling of what Mafia boss Willie Moretti had done to Tommy Dorsey on behalf of his godson Frank Sinatra. According to Kitty Kelly's 1986 biography, Dorsey said of Sinatra, quote, "He's the most fascinating man in the world, but don't put your hand in the cage." What cage? The rat cage? But you'll be relieved to know that according to daughter Nancy Sinatra's 1995 book Frank Sinatra, An American Legend, published by Reader's Digest, the story presented in The Godfather is, quote, poetic license that goes beyond what the Mafia actually did to get the chairman of the board, the name of an actual rank within La Cosa Nostra, his big film break. Kitty Kelly claims that it was his then-wife Ava Gardner pulling strings for Sinatra that got him the role. Yet by the time he was finally chosen for it, he had already destroyed his marriage with her. Gardner told friends that what pushed her to divorce Sinatra was his childish displays of jealousy about her success while he was hanging around the set of her latest film for months, waiting impatiently for word about whether or not he would get the part. Therefore, it seems unlikely to me that it would have been her recommendation that got him the part, considering that he was obviously not the first choice, and he was already wearing down Gardner's nerves. So you see, Frank Sinatra's Mafia affiliations were by no means casual. Indeed, he provided the headline entertainment for the 1946 Havana Conference of La Cosa Nostra crime bosses arranged by Lucky Luciano, which was actually the official cover for the meeting. Supposedly on the hotel's books, this was simply a conference for Frank Sinatra fanboys to hear their favorite singer. Sinatra flew there with two of Al Capone's cousins, Charlie Rocco and Joseph Fischetti, who were carrying a suitcase containing $2 million in cash, a racket payment for Luciano. Also present at the conference was Bugsy Siegel, whom Sinatra is quoted by Kitty Kelly as telling Joe Carroll Silvers that he, quote, adored because of, quote, how many people he had killed. The role played by Sinatra at the Havana Conference and his involvement with the Mafia-controlled casinos in Las Vegas was all dramatized in the Godfather series with the role of Johnny Fontaine, who was most likely named after the Fontainebleau Hotel in Miami Beach, Florida, where Sinatra was a regular. His frequent violent outbursts there, and the beatings he administered to the staff and other guests whenever he stayed there, were the subject of an article in the February 3, 2014 issue of the National Examiner. The article ends by describing how it was at the Fontainebleau that Sinatra was once sent a, quote, lamb's head on a silver platter, which, quote, had a special meaning to the singer, who was being tailed by the FBI because agents had uncovered his mob connections. The article quotes author John Glatt as saying that Sinatra, quote, viewed it as a warning from the mob to use his influence to have President Kennedy tell his brother Robert, the Attorney General, to stop waging war against organized crime, and that, quote, the scene would later be immortalized in The Godfather. When newspapers in the USA published pictures of Sinatra with Lucky Luciano as part of scathing exposés, Sinatra's response was to physically assault one of the journalists involved, Lee Mortimer. Then when Mortimer prepared to sue Sinatra for the beating, Sinatra's Mafia friends threatened to murder him, so he dropped the case. In the 1954 film Suddenly, Sinatra played a sniper named John Barron, working with a group of killers hired to shoot the president from a window as his train is passing through a small town in California. Sinatra's character is the leader of the group, and the one who plans to deliver the fatal shot. The other two henchmen are there to subdue the family that lives in the house which they've decided to use to shoot from. As the character John Barron, Sinatra repeatedly describes what it's like to have no human emotions and to take pleasure in hurting others. He particularly enjoys the godlike feeling acquired from murdering people and the compliance received by threatening to murder them.
Don't play God just because you've got a gun.
But you see, Sheriff, that's the way it is. When you've got a gun, you are a sort of God. If you had the gun, I'd be the chump and you'd be the God. The gun gives you the power of life and death. It's a funny sort of feeling to have control of life and death. You must have had it during the war. You could miss a man if you had a mind to, or you could kill dead in his tracks. And that made you kind of God. And I liked it. Without the gun, I'm nothing. And I never had anything before I got one. First time I got one on my hands and killed a man, I got some self-respect. I was somebody.
It seems to me that this is yet another film role in which Sinatra essentially played himself.
I killed 27 men, all by myself. I won a Silver Star medal.
I stole it.
There is an urban legend stating that Sinatra bought up and destroyed all copies of Suddenly after President Kennedy was killed because he had heard that it was one of the last films that Lee Harvey Oswald had seen before shooting Kennedy. However, it appears that Sinatra never did actually do this. He did, however, ask United Artists to withdraw it from circulation, which they did, and spent several days after the shooting locked in his room. Supposedly he was all broken up about the death of his friend Jack Kennedy, with whom he'd partied so many times in group orgies involving actresses and prostitutes. However, I think he may have been more upset for himself rather than Kennedy. He was probably worried that his own proximity to the perpetrators would become known, as I shall later explain. Sinatra most likely has a lengthy list of unacknowledged victims, considering the violence and criminal activity of his that we do know about. Yet he was just one part of an industry for which the devices of organized crime syndicates, their capital, their guns, their tough guys, their tactics of death threats and blackmail, are all built in as part of the machinery. Consider some of the stories that occur in the biographies of the Rat Pack members and their closest associates. First of all, let's talk about all of the stuff that happened to Sammy Davis Jr. He had lost an eye in an automobile accident in 1954. It happened on the feast day of St. Nerses I, who was poisoned to death by the demon-possessed King Pap of Armenia in 373, having been deceptively invited to the royal house for dinner to work out a disagreement. Davis blamed his car crash on the fact that he had forgotten to bring the mezuzah, a Jewish device for repelling demons, that his friend Eddie Cantor had given him, and which he usually wore around his neck. Davis later converted to Judaism in 1961 and seems to have retained that identity despite also joining the Church of Satan around the year 1967, a fact that goes unacknowledged in his Wikipedia biography. In interviews years later, though he stated that he was no longer a member, Davis said that he was still friends with several members of LaVey's church.
Because his mom's nickname was the pin, the hat pin something.
And
because she would give abortions.
Jr. Converting to Judaism and like doing all types of weird shit.
Well, he converted to Satanism.
I thought the same year. Did you know that?
What a year that must have been.
If you look on his Wikipedia page, it says he converted to Judaism in 19 whatever. And then that person did a video saying that same year he converted to Satanism.
I mean, he must have been going through a lot.
He must have been just kind of doing all kinds of, or maybe it's the same thing.
Well, I mean, look, you know, I had a couple friends that actually went to yeshiva school, you know. Ari Shafir did. Ari Shafir's got a funny ass hour called Jew, all about. And,
oh yeah, I've seen that. I've seen it where he talks about like there's a Talmud passage about what to do when you find out you're having sex and it's against kosher. You're supposed to stop, immediately look away, and like slowly exit. Like I was laughing my ass off when he said that.
Yeah, because you went to school for it. And the thing is, I don't know what unified Judaism. There really is not a unified Judaism. There's a modern day state of Israel that equates Zionism with Judaism. So it makes people think there's like a pope. I don't know what, but First of all, Reform Judaism is the one where like it's like your ethnicity.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like not. I don't think you really count as a religion.
It's just like a culture. Yeah, it's like a part of a genetic or a culture.
Ultra Orthodox, which is the final form, I always thought like Dragon Ball Z, but it's not. It is a marginalization term from the Zionists for the religious Jews who think it's a blasphemy that they reestablish the state of Israel.
Yeah, the Brooklyn people.
Yeah, well, but they're not all of them have the same.
Not
feeling.
all of them, but that's where you usually find them.
Because Kabod or that Schneerson fuck. That's all these, whatever your religion is. I just understand it's been infiltrated by the worst kind of serpent people, and and out of the gate. And when they invent new versions of it, a lot of them are in a coven, and that's their assignment.
Yeah.
And that's how we got the Mormons and then Jehovah's Witnesses and the seven. So we get all of them. And that's how we got the latter rain move. You seen this shit? All those faith leaders that Trump talks to, you seen them?
Yeah.
Oh, Kash Patel met his
prophets and prophetesses and stuff.
Yeah, where Kash Patel met his beard.
The one girl who's like, angels are coming from Africa. Angels are coming from Africa.
Yeah, and they always are like, God wants you to be materially wealthy on earth.
Yeah, yeah.
And like, oh man, that's great because I always want to be Christian but not have to read the book.
Right.
Just get
God
money.
wants you to have wealth and tons of cash in a private jet.
It's just insane, and you're just doing folk magic, motherfucker. If you're into that, oh, God wants prosperity for it. Like that's called folk magic.
Just be a pagan. You can do that. That's kosher for paganism.
Well, I think it feeds the beast better if you do it under false pretenses.
You do it under Christianity. Yeah.
Yeah. You whatever you join up to, you're going to be fed off of. That's why you shouldn't take a blood oath about anything. That's a legal right because that's a feeding on you, man.